everybody, we're live on the Jim Master Show, live entertainment lifestyle celebrity talk show series. Thanks for joining us wherever you're watching all around the world. I'm your host, Jim Masters, here in the host seat here in Loverty Hall, as we call it, the home base for the JMS broadcasts, which is the Jim Master Show live series. We're here on the East Coast of the United States in the New York tri-state area, and we have done almost 2,000 episodes of shows so far in just a short amount of time, which is amazing and counting, with all of you watching around the world. And we thank you for that. Appreciate all the love and support of what we've been doing here with all of our incredible guests coming in from all around the world, celebrity friends and more stopping by, including a great guest that you guys loved a couple years ago. I can't believe it's been that long already. And he's back. He's returning. He's got a lot of cool things to share. He's been working on some very cool projects. Who are we talking about? One of our favorites, the one and only Stanley Livingston is here. Actor, director, producer extraordinaire. Matter of fact, working on an incredible documentary as we speak. He's really a great guy. And we had such an epic conversation the last time he stopped by the Jim Master Show live series. And thanks to all of you for the likes and shares and comments on the other episode where Stanley was a guest. We wanted to have him back. He and I chatted, stayed in touch, and we put this together for this date for all of you so you can join in and say hello as well, since the show is live. Show is very interactive. Got the lovely whole chat room there. And if you subscribe to the YouTube channel, Jim Masters TV, you can actually chat in the chat room, or you can leave comments underneath the episode as the show is going along. So cool to have you here. We thank you again very much for joining us here at the Jim Masters Show live series. And again, Stanley is joining us from Los Angeles, California. Of course, he's most known for My Three Sons. However, you may recall a lot of other incredible shows and series and a lot of things that he's been involved in his decades in the industry. And he's still here to tell us about it. And it's really, really cool. And then, of course, adding on producer and director extraordinaire as well. Starting out, of course, Ozzie and Harriet, that show, which really sort of got things going for him as well. But he was also, there's a whole story about the Wet Gang that he was involved in even prior to this. Loves the ocean, loves surfing, loves water, just like me. We're here on the East Coast. And he was involved in that as well. Talk about that. But of course, Ozzie and Harriet was an epic series. And there he is right there on set. And again, this is just the short list, folks. We just throw in a few little things here we'll talk about. Do you remember Rally Around the Flag Boys? Absolutely. That's another great one, too. And yeah, of course, that's such a great shot. Cover of TV Guide with the one and only iconic Fred McMurray in My Three Sons. Do you also remember the Bonnie Parker story? Yes, that's another one that our good friend Stan Livingston was in as well. You may remember all these fantastic movies. They are epic, and we're going to talk about, that's just sprinkling in a few things. I'll leave the rest to our conversation. But yeah, he's had a prolific career. He's one of the most beloved performers in Hollywood and beyond. Everybody loves Stanley Livingston because he's such a nice guy. He's a real class act. He's a gentleman. He's very affable. He's funny. He's a great conversationalist. So it's always a joy to have an opportunity to chat with him. And he's going to join us again right and direct from his home in Los Angeles, California. Best known, again, to millions of TV viewers worldwide for the portrayal of Chip Douglas on television's second longest running situation comedy, My Three Sons. The classic TV series originally aired in prime time on ABC and CBS-TV. For an incredible 12-year run, a total of 380 episodes were produced. His career, of course, in the industry encompasses much more than My Three Sons. As I said earlier, he's worked in the industry, hard to believe. I think it's like almost 68 years now. Director, producer, executive producer, writer, editor. He has his production company, owner and executive, as well as being an actor as well. And yeah, he's the real deal, gang. And we're so excited to have him here. So let's, without further ado, welcome our friend, Stanley Livingston, back as a return guest to the Jim Masters Show live series. Gang, put your hands together. Here is Stan Livingston. Stanley, welcome back to the Jim Masters Show Live series, my friend. Really awesome to have you here. Hope you're doing well.
I am, Jim. Thanks for having me on again. Gee, a double dose.
That's it, right?
Yeah. Well, sometimes you do a show and that's the last time you ever do it. It's your first and last shot.
That's it. So you got to make it your best. No, it was so
yeah.
good. It was so good. We got so many comments and so many people really loving that episode. I said, let's put it together and update some of the things you're doing. And of course, go over the things you've done in the past. And of course, we've had your brother, Barry Livingston, on, and Tina Cole has been with us as well, and all sharing fabulous stories. How have you been since we chatted last? You're just working on a documentary right now, right, Stan?
Yeah, we're just beginning that. COVID kind of interrupted things. I think since the last time we did a show, that was right in the middle of that. And
right in the thick of it.
So you either fight it or you swing with the breeze. So I decided, well, I'll take a little bit of time off. Not really what I wanted to do, but it was really tough getting things started during that period of time. And then you're wondering, what can of worms am I opening by doing this production? Am I going to get COVID on the set? And worse things could happen than just getting it. So, I decided to ride out that storm. And it's I'd say towards the end of last year, just starting to get things rolling again. And, then came along the actors strike. So everybody slowed down again. It's like a unique COVID just for actors.
Right, to have to deal with all of that, exactly. But things seem to be starting to come back now a little bit. People are anxious to get going.
Exactly. Yeah. I think people are chomping at the bit to get to work. I don't know how much work there actually is out there right now still for actors, because a lot of shows and series have not started up. I'm sure movies have, but so the TV stuff, they take their sweet old time. So, for people that are willing to work on that cruise, they're still not back to work. And actors are just waiting to get that call, or waiting to get a call to do something else. I was fortunate. I had something that I set aside that I was working on to edit, because I'm also an editor.
Right.
And this project's pretty long. It's a 10-hour series. So, I had my work cut out for me there. I thought I'd be done by now, but I keep getting interrupted by other things. And I swear I hope I have it done in another 30 days. It's like, I can't stand it anymore.
I know. Editing is a tough, in-depth job. And the key, like, being an editor, and I've worked on some projects too in television where editing, either I was editing or I was with the editor because I was the on-air person. So I'm sort of helping tell the story. And it does take so much determination and time and patience. And you want to not edit it so far down to where there's nothing left or the feeling of it is gone, right? It's really a tightrope balancing act when you are an editor, isn't it?
It really is. I mean, this had a purpose behind it. Initially, we had shot, I think 120 hours of source footage. And in my mind's eye, I saw it as about a 2-hour piece. So when I sat down, I'm going through the footage and go, gee, how do you cut 118 hours out of this and come up with the show? Well, I realized after I dug into it, it was not going to be a 2-hour show. It wasn't going to be 4. It wasn't going to be 6. It turned out it's a 10-hour series. So,
wow.
But still, you're cutting 110 hours away that you're not using, and you're trying to tell, a coherent story. I'm trying to use everybody that was in it. And you wanted it to flow and have surprises. So, and some funny stuff. So I wanted to weave that in, but it's all done right now. It's just a matter of preparing it to be streaming media. So that's its own thing. When we first started, we just figured, it'll air or it'll be on DVD. But getting it ready for that was, another huge, I guess, monkey wrench in the game.
It's a whole other thing. It's a whole other beast, right? Exactly. And so many people understanding and learning it now since the last couple of years they've been home and just been learning how to readapt and Since we chatted last during the thick of that time, what are some things that you learned about maybe life or about yourself coming out of the unusual Twilight Zone period we have all been in? Because when we chatted last, we were sort of in the beginning middle of it. Now, hopefully, we're over some sort of the hump. But what are some things that, as far as life and your take on life and your perspective, that may have changed or enriched as a result of it all?
Well, I think having spent the entirety of my life from the time I was 4 years old, in show business, literally almost every day of my life, that it taught me to be resilient, to be patient, and also be able to do more than one thing if you're in this industry. If you're putting all your apples in one basket, like the acting basket, if you're around the last 4 years, it was very difficult for people, to get through that. And if you didn't have some other way to make a living that you were comfortable with, that can be a problem. But I've always been, I don't want to say multifaceted, but I guess I am, but multi-interested in different things. So, like I said, I spent a lot of time editing, but I was also working on a couple things, writing projects. I have one that's a TV pilot that I decided to look at, revisit again, and revamp it, see if I could make it funnier. And then I have a movie that I wrote actually a long time ago. And when I wrote it, it was kind of my lucky charm. I kept getting it optioned, and I made a living for a good while just off of the options.
Wow.
Didn't get made, but it would actually be a much easier film to make today. It was a period piece, and it takes place literally on the eve of World War II, and takes place 95% of it in Paris, France. So back then, that was probably two of the strikes against it. It was foreign, it was period. So, if you had issues back then, CGI it hadn't been developed yet. So I think the companies liked the story, and they were trying to figure out how to do, physically produce it and keep faithful to the time period that it was in. So now you could probably get a high school kid who's got After Effects, and he could probably do the special effects, because those type of special effects are nothing, but they would have been a little bit of a deterrent and expensive to do back then. So anyway, I just sat down with that again and did another run through the script to tweak it up, and I'll probably be getting that out there. I don't know if I'll be involved in it. Maybe just a script that gets sold and somebody else can have the pleasure of making it.
I think so cool about it all, Stanley, and of course, we'll go back in time for our viewers who are excited about some of the other things that you've done that they recognize over the years. Just that you still have your hands in the game. You've been doing this for so long. Like you say, you've been a part of the scene from childhood, and you've seen it all, and you've worked with some of the greats over the years. You've been on some of the most incredible sets as well as on location. You've had such a variety of roles, and then getting into the producer and editor and executive producer and director, writer. You've seen all aspects of this industry. What is it about this nutty, crazy, unpredictable, fabulous industry that still wants you to stay connected with it as you are?
Well, the short answer, I don't know how to do anything else. I didn't train myself.
That's a good answer. Usually most people say, money. I need money. I have bills, Jim.
Yeah, well, that too. But this stage of life, I'm okay. So yeah, I mean, that's the fortunate part and the unfortunate part. Sometimes I look at that as having been a liability, that my entire life from the time I was a kid was spent on sound stages and movie studio. I did have brief periods of time every year where I went back to public school, like when we were doing My Three Sons. We would shoot for 9 months a year, and then there was 3 months we weren't shooting, and it wasn't in summer. So I had to go to school. My parents, they didn't want to hire well, they thought it would be better than having a tutor or going to, there was a school in Hollywood that catered to Hollywood kids. It was called Hollywood Professional School. And
Hmm.
I'd say just about everybody but me went there at Barry. We were sort of forced to go to public school, but my parents thought that's where we should be, and we should be with real kids and doing what real kids do in between. And in the end, when I thought about it, they were right. We, as much as we could be like real kids in between, and going back, and when your first couple of days or weeks at school, you were like a human oddity. You were like a guy with leprosy or something, and people were pointing at you, and either wanting to be your friend or beat you up. So yeah, that was quite a trip, but yeah, I think it worked out for the best. I mean, you go to school for so long, but after that, everybody lives in the real world, and you need
Right.
to know how to deal with real people, not just other actors or producers or writers
Right.
or whatever. That's its own thing, and that's, as you get older, you realize it's real but not real.
Right.
Half the friends you make really aren't friends. If you're doing well at any moment in time, you have a lot of friends, but if you're not doing well at some period of time, your friends seem to disappear on you.
Everybody
I don't know.
disappears, right?
Yeah,
When
right.
did you realize that? Were you keen to that early on? Because a lot of times, when you're in these industries
Mhm,
early on as a kid, the glitz, the glamour, the attention, the love, the adulation, being around all these major
mhm.
people, and just all of that, and of course, the dollars and cents that come in too, but just the extra that comes with it can be very addicting and can draw people in. And we've seen a lot of times where, a child actor who might be incredibly talented falls off in another direction that isn't so positive for them.
Mhm.
How have you been able to always sort of meander it all and just keep the train pointed on the track in the right direction?
Well, I credit my parents with that. I mean, lots of elements about being in the industry are great. I mean, the work is fun. You get to work, make believe and be things that you're not in real life. But it's the fame part that's, you really have to get a grip on that. It's deleterious to your health, especially at least your mental health. And I think you really have to put that in perspective, especially if you're a little kid, because the people that you're working with, the movie stars, like I worked with Paul Newman and Joanne Woodward, Charlie Bronson, Doris Day, David Niven, George Papard, Debbie Reynolds. But when you're a kid, that's meaningless to you. They're just other people that happen. You're doing the scene with. You have no idea that these are huge movie stars when you're a kid. You're not in awe and intimidated by the slightest token. They're just other people you're working with. When you're an adult, it's different. If you're a new actor, you're working, and suddenly you get lucky and you get in a movie, and the guy sitting across the desk from you is Robert De Niro.
Mm,
You're probably crapping in your pants, basically. It's
right.
like, I don't believe I'm here, and you're just trying to pull off to do what you do and not embarrass yourself. So kids have an advantage that way. But as far as maintaining, I think, some sense of normalcy, our parents were just really, for, I don't know whether it was intuitive or things that maybe they saw, that they tried to keep us going down the straight and narrow, and they made sure we had a home life, and a home life like other kids. I get home and I wasn't treated special, even though 60 million people a week were watching the show. I get home and I'd have my chores to do. My mom, she'd remind me, you got to go out and mow the lawn today. And, oh yeah, you didn't pick up the dog poop for a week. That's got to get picked up. So, it wasn't special, and you didn't have people doing chores for you, and things that you usually end up doing for your parents when you're kids. They kind of shuffle off some of that dirty work on you, and yeah, we just accepted it. And then when we went to work, we were prepared. We knew our lines, and I I assume we had talent. It's hard to gauge that when you're a kid. They go, "I'm working on my talent," because you're really not. Children are very natural, and they're not really intimidated by the process. So they hired you for who you were. In fact, even on my three sons, I don't remember. I don't think I auditioned for it. How I got that job was I starred in a TV pilot before that, that kind of came out of something because I was doing Ozzie and Harriet episodes. And there was a stage door across from us was always open at noon, like stage five at Ozzie and Harriet, and the crew and the cast will all disappear during the lunch hour and do their thing. But across the street, there was a guy always sitting there with a big basset hound, a dog who the dog was working on the show. And I used to go over there and play with the dog, and the trainer was a really cool guy and was showing me how you do hand signals to train the dog. And anyway, one
Is
day,
that this one here, Skippy?
yeah, that's the one. Yep. So that
Yeah.
guy in that picture, he was wearing a suit, came up to me while I was playing there, and he goes, "Who are you?" And I stood up and said, "Name's Stanley Livingston," and no wisecracks, please. So he was kind of charmed by that. But
And was that based on the Jackie Coogan one from 1931, sort of loosely? Or
Well, it was Jackie Cooper. Actually,
yeah,
when he was a child actor, starred in that with 1931.
right.
And it was the biggest movie of the year. The director won an Academy Award, and Jackie Cooper got nominated, and I believe he won for an Academy Award. He was at least nominated, making him the youngest person ever nominated for a leading role in a film. And so he carried that distinction with him, and he was in The Little Rascals and did a ton of films. He was probably second only to Shirley Temple and maybe Mickey Rooney when he grew up
Right.
as a child actor. But by this point in time, I think he was probably about 30, 31, and he had moved on and was a producer, a director. And he was producing and directing a TV show across from Ozzie and Harriet called The People's Choice, which had this dog as one of the characters. The dog's name was Cleo in the show, and you, like Mr. Ed, you could hear him talking or thinking.
Yeah.
And so anyway, we had a brief conversation, and he was asking me a lot of questions. And I'm thinking, man, I'm going to be in trouble,
Right.
because there's no adult around, and kids weren't really allowed to walk around on movie studios or sets without a parent being, there or aware of it. And so finally, the conversation I thought was ending. He says, "Well, I'd like to meet your mom," and then I knew the jig was up. So I go,
Mm.
"Oh, okay, well, she's across the street on stage five." I go, "I guess I'll take you over there and you can meet her." So I brought her over and said, "Mom, this guy wants to talk to you." And like I said, that guy meant nothing to me. So I walked away and kind of hid in the darkness, the shadows on the set. And I watched to see if my mom was, what her reaction was to this guy, because I did figure I was in trouble. But they stood there and talked for probably a good 20, 30 minutes. So I wondered what the heck was going on. And then shortly thereafter, I got called to the set and, was shooting my scenes in an Ozzie and Harriet episode. Well, flash forward 3 months later, Jackie went away and he wrote a TV pilot to star me in it.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a remake of the movie that he did when he was a kid called Skippy. And he wanted to resurrect it as a TV series. So I think this whole thing started about July, August. And in December of 1958, I was on a different stage with him, and he produced and directed Skippy. And so what happened with Skippy was it never sold, but it became a great showpiece for me. It's like right now how actors, eventually try to put a reel together of themselves, which, at one point in time was on videotape, DVD, and now everybody uploads their, files of their scenes to Actors Access or someplace to present them. But
Right.
in that era, that's where the term came from. Can I see your reel?
That's right.
Well, this was actually a reel of 16 millimeter film. And my parents or my agent would borrow the reel when I was up for something to show the producers, because it gave me a leg up sometimes on other actors. It's one thing to go in and meet the producer and audition in person, but for them to see this piece of film was extraordinary, because I was in literally probably 85, 90% of the scenes and had half the dialogue in it. So it was a heavy weight on my shoulders shooting it. And, I had just turned 8 years old, like the month before. So it was pretty cool. So anyway, flash forward a couple of years further, I was still doing Ozzie and Harriet's because I did them from about 1956 to the end of 59, or might even been the last one was in January of 1960.
What was it
And
like being on that iconic series too, working with, them and of course Ricky Nelson, just everybody? The exposure is great, but that's
yeah,
such a beloved series.
well, that's where I cut my teeth. I mean, if it wasn't for Ozzie Nelson seeing something in me, that probably the same thing that Jackie Cooper saw. I was cute, had blonde hair, I was outspoken, precocious, and I wasn't intimidated of talking to adults. I don't know why I've always been that way, or maybe that got developed over a period of time when I was doing all the different shows and movies that I did back then. But when I got Ozzie and Harriet, I was like any other actor. I was hard to be an extra. I didn't have any lines, and preceding that, I did maybe 10 different TV shows where I didn't have any lines. I was just one of a pack of kids, neighborhood kids, Dennis the Menace or whatever. And this was to be the case here. And we were shooting, and when we shot the scene that I was to be an extra in, shot it a couple times, and then he pulled me aside and he said, "Could you say this line?" And he told me what to say. And so I said, "Yeah, I can do that." And so he said, "Okay, I'm going to put an X on the floor right here, but I don't want you to look down at the X when you're walking. I just want you to walk to me, stop at that X, look me right in the eyes, and say that line. Then I want you to turn this way and walk off. You got it?" And I went, thumbs up. I got it. So we shot it a couple times, and then he moved the camera closer, and that turned out to be my close-up. I wasn't sure what that was all about, but
Right.
anyway, we did it a third time, so he shot a close-up. And before we left the set that day, he approached my mom and said, "Hey, could you please leave your contact information with my secretary in the front
Mm.
office? And I want to have him back." Well, we all know how show business works and how many times you hear that and you never see
Right.
or hear from that person again. But
Right. Have your people call my people.
right, so a couple months later, he did call my agent and wanted to book me again for another show. They sent the script over, and I this one I had quite a few lines, and I guess I did a good job because from 56 to beginning of 1960, I guess I did almost, I think it was 20 shows, something like 15, 20 shows. So, but it got me going.
Right.
Doesn't sound remarkable, but that's really how it happens for a lot of people. They're hired sometimes as an extra, like I was, and they're just pulled into the scene, given a line. But if you're not an actor, that having that line on film allowed me to become an actor. I was able to join the Screen Actors Guild
Hmm.
after that, and yeah, got my career rolling as a professional actor. And I started doing other TV shows. I got some movies, and then the Skippy thing came along, and I did that. But the value of Skippy was my agent kept getting that reel from Jackie Cooper to show it. And I think that's how I got in Please Don't Eat the Daisies. They said, "Well, you don't have to have him in the
Yes.
audition. I'll show you a reel on him. You're going to want this kid once you see him." And that's what happened. So in 1959, they were thinking about doing My Three Sons, a show called My Three Sons. And they were looking for three sons, a young one and middle age, like 15, 16, and an older brother that was about 17, 18. And my agent sent over the reel and they watched it. And the next day I got hired.
That's incredible. I
Yeah.
mean, it's a wonderful progression of things that happened. But were you also, even before all of that, something, was it the Wet Boys gang, or tell us about that? What gang?
No, I knew I always wanted to be a performer,
Yeah.
that kind of thing. Because well before that, I mean, this was, well, 1959, but I'm thinking this is probably like 1955, 56 when I first started going to public school, or,
Right.
nursery school, kindergarten. They would put on shows. I went to Gardner Street Elementary School, where the auditorium eventually got named after Michael Jackson. I guess he donated money to that school, or maybe he went there at some point in time. But I went there, and they would ask kids if they wanted to be in a show, and my hand always shot up, and I wanted to do whatever it was. Of course, if there was a costume involved, I was probably more interested in the cowboy costume. I remember one show I don't know what the show was about, but I was supposed to be a milkman. So I had to wear like a white shirt, black pants, hat, and I carried a milk rack with white, well, it was supposed to be full milk bottles, but they obviously didn't fill them up. I probably couldn't even have lifted it. They were just painted white on the inside. And I remember I wasn't thrilled about it. And they finally changed me. I got to be the policeman. And that I was happy with because I had a fake gun on, had a badge, had a hat, but I was the guy that got pulled the lever where they had a red light. And, in the old days, they used to have red light, green light, and yellow light. But it had an arm that came out that said stop or something like that. And I wanted to be that guy. So somehow I finagled my way into that. And then when I got to Vine Street Elementary School, which is where I went from first through fifth grade, anytime there was a show, I wanted to be in it. And they had an auditorium. And I remember being in some shows, the Christmas shows. One year I was the MC at the Christmas show. So I seemed to, gravitate towards doing that. The other thing, even before all this started, my parents rented a house in Hollywood on Formosa Boulevard or Avenue in Hollywood. That's where we lived. It was just an old, clapboard house. And I think that was the first house they were in because we lived in an apartment at 9th and Vermont before that. And I was born on Vermont at the Hollywood Presbyterian Hospital. So, but there was an old TV in the back. It's just, I went back and whoever the former tenant was left it there, but the picture tube was gone. So I would go in back of the TV set and then, start acting out, that I was a cowboy. I put a cowboy thing on, and then I would have kids come over and I would entertain them with whatever was going through my brain at the time, to be an army man or to be I think I liked the Mouseketeers Club then. My mom bought me those ears and the hat. So yeah, it was just, I guess I just had a wild imagination. Plus I wanted to be in that box.
You wanted it,
to
right?
get
Exactly.
Crawl inside that box because I'm watching TV. And I actually saw the Mickey Mouse Club. And I just remember I was so jealous of those kids that, eventually got on there. I actually went out for an interview to be a Mouseketeer.
To be a Mouseketeer, really?
Yeah. It was kind of a cattle call, and I was just probably one of thousands of kids. But I did get a call back, and I think the deal was they thought I was about a year or two too young, to do it. So when I saw it on TV without me, I was not the happiest person about that. But
right.
Who knows? But then you look at it later and you look at your life and you go, had I done that, I don't know what my career would have been.
The other things might not have happened and come your way. Like the Bonnie Parker story. Tell us about that too. People may remember that fondly as well. Yeah,
well, that was the first feature film I was in. It was shot at a studio in Hollywood, no longer exists. It was called ZIV, Z-I-V. I have no idea what that stood for. Finally, I think became part of the Samuel Goldwyn Studios. But yeah, it was a early Bonnie and Clyde story. And Bonnie Parker obviously was Bonnie, and then there was a guy that played Clyde, and then they had a group of outlaws. And this was an early film by AIP, American International Pictures, who were the purveyors of all those horror films we loved when we were teenagers, all the ones with Vincent Price. But before that, they kind of made exploitation pictures. So this was made with another film called Machine Gun Kelly that starred Charlie Bronson. So there was, the Bonnie Parker story, which starred Dorothy Provine, and she, was kind of a working actress back there in the late 50s. She had a couple TV series. I think she was in a show called The Roaring Twenties, and then there was another one, I think it was called The Alaskans. And she was gorgeous, drop dead gorgeous. She was kind of like a Marilyn Monroe type, maybe better. I mean, she was really, really pretty. And in that movie, my scene, fortunately, was with the star. If you're a working actor, that's the thing you're trying to get. There's a lot of parts in films where you're working with co-stars or just with some other people that are kind of extraneous to the plot. So even to this day, you know, it's Barry works all the time, but he always seems to have his scenes, you know, with the star of the show, which is what you want, because that's what you want to put on your reel. But so for me, my scene was with Dorothy Provine, Bonnie Parker, and they come out of this house to make their, I guess, a getaway, or at least go to another city because they think the cops are onto them. And they get in the car, and there's no car keys. And all of a sudden, they hear this voice from afar yell, "Stick them up!" And it kind of pans over to me, and I'm some little 7-year-old kid, and I've got my cap gun out, and Clyde gets out, and he's, you know, going to kill me. And Dorothy Parker intercedes. I mean, Dorothy Provine intercedes and stops him and uses psychology on me. You know, she goes, "Do you have those keys?" And I pull them out of my pocket. And she said, "Well, I think we should do a trade. Do you like gum?" And I went, "Yeah." And so she reaches into her purse, and I trade the keys for a stick of gum. And anyway, they're walking back to their car, and I have some little flippant remark, and I go, "Well, don't let me catch you doing that again." And they drive off. It was cute. It was cute. Yeah, it was. I mean, I lucked out. There's, you know, and all those things. Like I said, when you're beginning acting, you got a scene with the star. Although I didn't really have a reel. I never had a reel back then. The only thing I ever had on the reel was Skippy, you know, because the whole show was me, and it was starring me, and you know, that would have been the best thing I could have shown anyway. And the funny thing about Skippy, I don't know if I ever mentioned that to you.
No,
I never saw Skippy till about 3 years ago. Never saw it. Well, because the only way you could see it was you either had to own a projector, or you would have to rent a theater and the projectionist after midnight when they stopped showing whatever the daily shows were, and the projectionist would say, put your, you know, whatever you had on that reel up and display it. So midnight was past my bedtime, so I never saw it, and I never had a copy of it. And I remember years later, when I was in my late 20s, I'd run into him a bunch, but I had the idea, you know, I should get a copy of that. So I asked Check, I said, "Do you have a print of it?" And he's like, yeah, he says, "Why don't you come over to my house?" Anyway, whatever it was, Tuesday, and, you know, we'll go look for it. So I came over, and I think we rummaged through his garage where he had all kinds of film reels out there, and we couldn't find it, and I was kind of disappointed, but whatever. And then about 4 or 5 years later, I ran him again, and he goes, "Well, why don't you come back out again?" He goes, "I also have stuff up in my attic." So I guess I came out, and we did the same thing, couldn't find it. So it's okay. You know, it served my purpose. I guess I said I was just curious how it turned out, or if I was any good, you know, just, you know, it just seemed to be one of those, you know, pivotal things in your life, and you never saw it. You know, be like me. Well, that's almost the case. Never seeing My Three Sons, which I haven't seen most of it, but I did want to see that. And 3 years ago, some guy contacted me on Facebook, and I recognized his name, so I contacted him, and I said, "Go to my website, put your information there, and I will call you back." So he did. And I called him, and it was the guy I thought it was. So we were talking. Anyway, he was the guy that played my best friend in Skippy. The question was, "Do you have a copy of this?" He's like, "Oh yeah, no, I got a copy." I go, "Wow, how do you have a copy and I don't have a copy?" He goes, "I don't know." He goes, "But I got a copy. I've got a DVD." So I was like, "Wow, oh my God." I go, "Well, where do you live?" And he lived up by San Francisco. But he said he was going down to Palm Springs in December. So we, you know, decided to meet up. And I invited him over to my house, and he brought the DVD, and I finally saw Skippy, and I was like, "Wow, that was so cool!" Yeah,
isn't that
I
cool?
could see why the show didn't sell, but I could see why I was getting work. So that was
absolutely.
Kind of
You mentioned Charles Bronson, and you played his son once too, didn't you?
Yes, yeah, in a movie. This is probably about 1961 or 62. I was
X-15?
Yeah, it was a movie called X-15, and it was shot at Zulu Studios,
Yeah.
where we were shooting My Three Sons. And I remember the director. I didn't know him then, but he came down and I guess was watching me act. And anyway, and then my agent asked me to go meet him. I guess he had an office there, but by that point went in, and they just kind of talked to me. And then next day I found out I was going to be doing a part in this movie,
Yeah.
X-15, starring Charlie Bronson and Kenneth Tobey, James Gregory, and introducing Mary Tyler Moore.
That's right.
Yeah, so that was
That's
kind of
right.
cool. And then the director,
Wow.
this was his first feature film. He had been directing TV before that for years, but he eventually became, an A-list director, a guy named Richard Donner. So Richard Donner and I really hit it off, and he loved me, and yeah, he was just a great guy. And I could do crying scenes, so I think he had seen some of the My Three Sons episodes because the first year, I don't know why, I had a lot of
Scene.
emotional scenes. Yeah,
Yeah.
usually with William Frawley and
Yeah.
crying, and I kind
Yeah.
of and that's the reason they hired me out of Skippy because I had a big scene in that where I had to cry, and I guess I pulled it off effectively enough that they thought I could handle the demands of the part. And,
Exactly. Yeah. You
yeah,
had
and
range.
I had
That
range.
kid
Yeah,
had range.
and yeah, the funny part. So this was about 61, 62, and then I saw Dick Donner a few times just at functions and stuff, and we'd always say hello and talk. But about 1974, I think it was, or five, there was a TV movie, and my agent sent me out on at Universal, and it was a TV series that was going to star David Hartman. It was called Lucas Tanner, and I walked in, and who was sitting in there? Richard Donner. So I remember him saying, "This guy could cry at the drop of a hat." And I'm like thinking, Dick, I'm an adult now. I don't
Yeah.
know, about. I
Right.
guess I can still tap into that.
He
So
doesn't need onions or anything, this guy.
yeah, this guy's great. So I went in the other room with the sides, and I'm like, oh man, I don't believe it. I got to actually do the crime scene at the audition. And so I went in and I did my thing and found out the next day I got hired. And then when I saw Dick, you dirty rat, man, putting me on the spot like that to do. You go, oh, it's nothing for you. You can do it. You're so good. And I'm like, oh, all right. Well, I go, if you direct anything else, just make sure I don't have to cry in it.
I don't have to cry again.
Yeah, I'm
You
kind of sick of that gig.
right. Here's another one too, of course, that was really great. Rally Around the Flag Boys, Paul Newman, Joanne
Yeah.
Woodward. I mean, incredible cast. What was it like being a part of that?
Yeah, that was fun. That, of course, has a story with it too. I
Yeah.
went out and auditioned for it, and they had a bunch of kids there, and it got narrowed down to a few more kids, with me being included in that. Whether it was a group of three kids, and about an hour later, it was down to just me, and the casting person came in the room where my mother was there, and we had Barry with us because she didn't have a babysitter. And so she said, "Well, Stan's got the part, and we'll give you the script." And they go, "Well, who's this other little guy with you?" And I go, "Well, that's my brother Barry." And they said, "Really? We're looking for a little brother. So is he an actor?" Of course, my mom piped up, "Sure, yeah, he's an actor too." And so Barry got cast in Rally Around the Flag Boys as my brother. So we actually played, worked together before My Three Sons. We were also worked together on Ozzie and Harriet, but I think this was even before that. And so the first day of shooting, the objective was Paul Newman comes home from work, and he walks up to us. We're laying on the couch, and he's saying, "Hey boys, how you doing? How's your day?" And our acting job was to not pay any attention to him. Don't look at him. Don't say anything. Just keep staring at the TV set. You're just going to ignore him. And so we shot it a couple times, and then the director, a guy named Leo McCary, came up to my brother. He said, "It doesn't look like you're looking at the TV set. It's actually over here, and you're looking over here." So we shot it again, and I could see he was starting to get irritated. I'm like looking at my brother. It looked like he was looking the right direction to me, but I couldn't tell from the camera's point of view. But anyway, the director was getting very upset. We shot it about 4 or 5 more times, and anyway, what happened was we broke for lunch, and they sent Barry to an ophthalmologist, and it turned out Barry had crossed eyes. So it was never going to look like he was looking at the TV set in his mind, but his eye was looking over there. So he got fired, and by 1 o'clock, I had a new brother.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah, yeah.
It's the
It's
way it works. But
pretty
again,
crazy.
what goes around, sometimes it leads to other greater things that happen, right?
Yeah. Well,
Yeah,
I mean, it was kind of cool to work with Leo McCarey. I mean, at that time I didn't know it, but he's the director and was a producer writer who put Laurel and Hardy together.
that's
So
right.
he had a real pedigree. But
Yeah,
yeah, like I said, the same thing kind of happened on Ozzie and Harriet about 1959. I did the pilot for My Two Sons, and then, we were pretty much told it was going to go. And my parents had to tell Ozzie Nelson that I wouldn't be able to do the show anymore or come back. In those days, if you were doing a TV series, you couldn't be on another series because it could have
no,
a conflicting sponsor. So
right.
they wanted to make sure of that. And anyway, so the very last episode of Ozzie and Harriet I did, I don't remember how this happened, but Barry was working and actually, doing different things, and legitimately was a professional actor by then. And they had him on Ozzie and Harriet. I think he was playing my brother on it, and there was a scene in the kitchen where Ozzie was trying to dump these I think they were T-shirts that somehow had a mistake. They screwed up the order and they were like meaningless. So he was trying to pawn them off on the kids, saying you guys could have a club. We're going, oh, that's great. Is it called the Eagles or the Wolves? I mean, he's like, no, it's actually called Welcome Back Skinny. Is what the T-shirt said. So we're like, oh, thanks a lot. And then we just went back to the ice cream that he was bribing us with. Anyway, there's such a cute shot of Barry. He's got ice cream from one end of his face to the other, going, thanks, Mr. Nelson. You
Right.
know. Anyway, I left, and they were needed to replace me because I had sort of become their go-to neighborhood kid by that point. And I guess Ozzie saw enough in my brother and with the other work he was doing to have confidence to bring him back. And not that he replaced me because he's his own person and his own look and his own acting style, but he got the part. And from 1960 till about 65, and he did a 15, 20 Ozzie and Harriet's too. And
That's right.
in
Yeah,
between, he started doing movies. He was in Papa's Delicate Condition, starring Jackie Gleason.
that's right.
He was in The Errand Boy with Jerry Lewis. He was in what was the movie with Debbie Reynolds? My Six Loves with Cliff Robertson, David Jansen, Debbie Reynolds. So it's not like he's being handed parts. He went out and earned them. He was a real actor. You look at him, he looked so kooky and goofy because he had the glasses then after that little incident,
One
and
of
he
the
didn't look
first on
like everybody
television.
else.
Right.
Exactly.
One of the
Exactly.
first, I remember as watching these shows, and one of the first kids that you saw that actually had glasses, which for all those kids probably who had glasses, who were
Hmm.
watching the shows that he was on where the glasses were worn, it was probably comforting, not even realizing because he's a kid acting,
Yeah.
doing what he was doing, what he was actually doing for those kids who dealt with having to wear glasses in
Yeah.
school and name calling and
Yeah.
other stuff that went on, that it was actually something quite special because he was one of the first kids that wear glasses, right, on television on
I
these in these
believe
shows.
so. Yeah, most of the kids like me, they were always little blonde Aryan looking kids, and Barry looked like Mr. Moto with glasses. He really kind of pioneered that quintessential nerd look, and yeah, it was something different. And as you
Yeah,
say, I think kids saw a kid that looked more like a real kid or looked like them on TV, and that made it okay. Even Barry, after he had got his glasses, I'm sure in school, he got called Four Eyes and Hey Nerd, Brainerd, and all the things that go along with that turf of wearing glasses when you're young. But
yeah.
but it gave him a distinctive look, and that worked for him. Sometimes you just stumble into that through an accident, or like you said, you get fired, but because of the firing, you got the glasses, which eventually got you all the work. So
Right.
who's to say? Yeah.
Exactly right. So many incredible stories and things that you've been a part of. I believe also, weren't you a stunt double for Johnny Provost on Lassie?
I was, yeah. That was one of the very first things I did. Well,
Yeah.
that's how I segued into show business, so to speak. We lived in Hollywood, and my mom wanted me to learn how to swim at a really young age, like 3 years old, and she
Right.
sent me to a swim school in Hollywood. And the lady that ran it was very entrepreneurial, and she cut a porthole in the side of her pool so photographers could go down there and shoot underwater pictures. And she would put cars and bikes and all kinds of toys underwater, and we go down and play with them. And she'd invite the period magazines to come out and do spreads on it, Look, Life, Vogue. So we were known as water babies.
Right.
And we were even on US for it. So that was another thing. So Hollywood people started bringing their kids there to learn how to swim. And there was an agent whose daughter, she was a lot older than me. I think she was 14, but she didn't know how to swim and was taking swimming lessons there. And she saw me being rambunctious and running all over the place and thought I might have the qualifications to be a child star. So she kept, after my mom finally relented, and I went out on a couple things. And, one of the very first thing I did, I think, was that thing for, it was John Provost. So I had to be like 56, 57, somewhere in there. But he was being integrated into the show, the original cast, with Tommy Reddick playing Jeff, the mom, and I think there was a grandfather too. Anyway, they were moving off the farm. And as the story went, he was not going to be able to bring Lassie with him because they were going to live in the city, and Lassie was used to living in the country. So there's a scene where he gives him to Timmy. And so that whole transition happened. And then June Lockhart's the mother. And then there's a new, I don't remember whether it was a dad or a grandfather, but anyway, that was the new cast lineup. Anyway, and in the first episode, I don't remember what happened. I think something happens where he doesn't want to be on the farm and runs away. And I don't know how he got there, but he falls in a lake, and he can't swim, so he's out there floundering. And then Lassie goes and gets the dad or an adult that's nearby and makes him come over, and he goes out into the water and rescues Timmy. Well, John didn't know how to swim either, so I got
Here comes Stanley.
got to put his clothes on and swim out to where they wanted me to be. And then, my directorial order was, whatever you do, don't look at that camera. Keep your head facing the opposite way, no matter what happens. So if he picks you up and turns you, you turn your head. So, I did it. My reward was I got John Provost's autograph. I got
Didn't you get stuck in the mud trying to get out of that lake?
Yeah, I did. What I didn't know was, so it was probably about 5 feet deep, I guess. I don't know. I was probably about 4 feet maybe. But what I didn't know is when they needed me to go underwater, and I put my feet down, the bottom was just gushy mud. It was a couple feet thick, and I sunk into it. And when you're in mud underwater, there's a suction action that happens.
Yeah, it's like quicksand, right? It's scary.
It's like quicksand. I couldn't get loose of it almost, but I struggled and finally got loose.
Did Lassie come to save you?
No, I was scared I wasn't going to come back up and say, hey, the stunt kid went out there, but he never came up. And so they had to send a real guy out to rescue me. Somehow I got out. So when I came up to the surface and went, you grab some air. That was me really grabbing air. I was, out of air, just fighting off the mud down there. But I don't think I got stunt pay, but like I said, I walked home with John Provost's picture and autograph, Tommy Reddick's picture, and the kid who played Porky, Donald Keeler.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so I still have those pictures from those days. I still have them around my house somewhere.
That's so cool. We mentioned Raleigh earlier and working with Paul Newman and Joanne Woodward. What was it like working with them, with Paul?
Yeah, he was pretty good. He didn't spend a lot of time with us, but before the scene, he came over, sat down cross-legged on the floor, and we talked. And I don't remember what we did. I think he had some kind of game or something, and we played that. And we were just, kind of talking, and it was probably advisable to do that. And usually adult actors realize they've sort of got to befriend or at least gain the trust of the kids, so to make it look like there's a real relationship there. So he spent some time with us, and then we went and shot it. And then my brother effed it up. I got that crossed eye. Hey, what are you doing?
Come on.
I get your big break and your eyes looking over here.
We were on a roll here.
Yeah.
The opportunity to be on Please Don't Eat the Daisies and working with Doris Day and everybody, that was extraordinary. What was that like for you,
That was
Stanley?
actually more fun, I think, than even Rally Around the Flag Boys, because there was two other guys there, Flip Mark and Charlie Herbert. We really hit it off. You're around guys your own age, so there was something to do on the set when you weren't filming that we could play, and we all went to school together. And again, Doris Day kind of did the same thing. She found time to, spend some time with us. I remember she taught us how to play cards, this card game, and then she had it probably wasn't her. She probably borrowed it from the prop people, but they had horseshoes. And I remember we played like endless games of horseshoes. And then she said, "Do you guys like to sing?" And then there was a song in the movie we all had to sing. And so anyway, she probably already knew it and was teaching us to it so we could sing it with her in the scene. It was all done with playback, but yeah, she was just sweet lady, and had a good time working with her. Worked with David in a couple scenes, and he was just kind of doing his thing. He was a sophisticated English actor, and I don't think he really had that much time for kids. I mean, he was nice to us and courteous and all that, but he was leaving most of everything to the director. And as soon as they'd yell cut, he'd wander off to his dressing room where Doris Day would come over and hang out with us. And she was just so sweet. And she had a child. I think he was a couple years older than us. That would have been Terry Melcher. So he was around, and then the producer of that too had a couple kids. And I remember there was a weekend he wanted us to go home with him to his Bel Air mansion and hang out with his kids. So we did that. That was kind of funny. He had a swimming pool, and of course I was interested in swimming. It's kind of my whole life, I guess, from the time I was 3 years old when I wasn't working, was being at that swim school in
Yeah.
Hollywood.
Yeah.
The lady's name was Jen Levin that ran it. And anyway, I did that all the way up, even including when I was an adult and my daughter was born when she was 3 years old. I took her to Jen Levin. So we carried on the tradition.
That's so fantastic. It really is. Again, do you love the ocean?
I do. Probably my hold on. My parents, that was kind of our weekend activity. We'd always go to Santa Monica Beach and go body surfing, or we'd rent inner tubes and all that and go out there. So, yeah, we were real familiar with the ocean. And, when I was about 13, I got into surfing. Beach
Yeah.
Boys came along, and that sounded good to me.
Right.
And I borrowed, a friend had a surfboard. So that was the one that I went surfing on. And I
Yeah.
think I've told that story before. I think when I
Yeah.
was 14, I was ate lunch with Bill Frawley almost every lunch hour when we both worked. And we go to Nicodell's on Melrose for lunch and then come back and get ready to go back to work. And I remember I went up to change my clothes for the first scene after lunch. And I opened the door. What do I see? I see a 9-foot Dewey Weber surfboard. And it said to Chip from Bub. Or Bill, I think he actually put Bill on it. And he bought me a surfboard for my birthday.
Oh,
Of course,
cool.
about a month later, one of the crew guys was a surfer and got his front teeth knocked out. So I was immediately banned from surfing, although I think I still did, but they didn't know about it. And
Yeah.
but that surfboard spent a lot of time in the my parents' pool. I
Oh,
just kind of
yeah.
kept it there unless I was going surfing. And finally,
Uh,
about 4 or 5 years later, the nose was all dinged up.
yeah. I
I
love
should have kept it anyway, just because
just
it
to
was
have
with
it.
Bill. Yeah,
I
yeah,
love watching those clips and the shows where they show the surfers on these like 50, 60, 80, 100-foot waves off Maui or off Nazarene in Portugal. That really takes some gumption to go out there with that board and just tackle waves of that fervor and that size, huh?
yeah. I don't think I could do that.
Yeah.
I mean, just be tackling a 6-foot wave seemed kind of scary, especially at first, because you're looking over this precipice of water. But you got to get over the
You
precipice
got to
to
get over it
get the
or,
energy to get going.
yeah,
Otherwise, it's like trying to ride a bicycle standing still.
Yes.
be done.
It's not
You know,
going to happen.
you got to be moving to keep your balance. So yeah, it was the same thing with the surfboard. You had to be moving.
Yeah.
But yeah, you know, I did what I could. But the studio banned everything. I think I was talking about getting a motorcycle, and I remember the production manager goes, "We'll ban you if you do it. You'll be
No
banned." Yeah,
motorcycles.
no
Yeah.
motorcycles. We just want you to walk
Nothing
around.
risky. Yeah.
Nothing risky. Just
Can't
walk and
scraped
breathe.
up. Right. Yeah, that's it. Of course, you know, we're
Yeah.
talking about all these fabulous things that you've been a part of. Even Chevrolet, the Chevy Friends magazine, huh? On the cover there.
Yeah, well, that was a result
Cool.
of a commercial that was done. I believe it was
Yeah.
in 1962 or 1963, and Chevy was our sponsor. Was also the sponsor of Bonanza
Right.
and Route 66. So somebody had the brilliant idea to get the cast from all three shows together and make this extra long commercial. You know, we had commercials anyway, but they're, you know, usually 30 seconds, 60 seconds long. And so this was a 5-minute commercial put together where we were on a picnic with the guys from Bonanza and the guys from Route 66, and the entire cast were there. It was cute. It was like a picnic, and you know, I like food. So did Haas. So I got paired with him,
Yeah.
and Robbie and Michael Landon got paired together, and I think it was Bub got paired with Hop Sing or whatever that their chef was
Right.
called, and then yeah, Fred McMurray was with Lauren Green, and yeah, so the Tim I think was with Pernell Roberts and Marty Milner. So yeah, it was kind of cute, and it was 5 minutes long, and they carved that 5 minutes because Bonanza was an hour long. They
Right.
carved that 5 minutes out of the end of the show. It was only shown one time, but they made a huge deal about it coming up, so everybody would watch it. And it was well received, and was purveying the cars that they had available for 1963, if I remember. If I could have the split window Corvette was in it.
Mm,
And I remember thinking,
right.
wow,
The
wish I
Impala.
had one of those. Yeah, the Impalas. Well, that was the
Was it?
Corvette for me, man. That Corvette
Yeah.
was beautiful. Oh my
Corvette
God.
was nice. Yeah. What
Yeah,
was your first
yeah.
car?
Well, by then we had Pontiac as a sponsor when I turned, actually before that, I think about 64, 65, they came in. So we ended up, because we were on the show, they gave us cars to drive around in, I guess for promotional purposes. And
Cool as that, huh?
I couldn't drive, so I'm basically sitting in the car for my parents had to drive. But as soon as I turned 16, I told my parents that you're not driving that car. You're going to have to get another car. So I think I had to buy my mom a
I
car,
worked for this car.
right, right. Well, actually, I didn't. It was free,
Yeah,
but
it's
I
just
wanted it. And I went in. They told me I could pick out any car I wanted. There was a lot where they had cars with manufacturer license plates. So I was turning 16. So you know, you're an idiot when
talk
you're
about sweet
16.
16. Oh my God.
I picked out a blood red Pontiac GTO with a 460 cubic inch engine in it, I guess it was, and a Hirsch shift. That was my first car. So
Wow.
yeah,
How
that
long
was
did you
kind of
have that one for? Do you remember?
yeah, maybe about 3 months, 4 months. We could only put 3,000 miles on it, and then we'd have to go back there and pick out another car.
Yeah.
So I
Wow.
think I got a white one after that, and then I thought,
God.
well, yeah, I wonder what a Le Mans is. So I got a Le
It's like
Mans.
endless test driving. It's
Yeah,
perfect.
it was. It was. Yeah,
Wow.
the Le Mans had no horsepower. I think there was a rubber band powering that one.
Right.
So I never wanted that car again. But yeah, over the course of this series, the last, I guess it would have been 6, 7 years that we were on the show and had Pontiac. I had several Firebirds when they came out. I had a Pontiac Bonneville, which is, God, that thing was a boat,
It
a
was a
huge
boat. My first
boat
car was
like
a
that.
Pontiac Firebird. Yeah, the first one.
Yeah, yeah, I had
Yeah.
Firebird. Then they came out with the Trans Am, and I got that. That
Trans
was
Am. Yeah.
blue car with those, I mean, white car with those blue stripes down the hood. They all looked the same. Had the machine dashboard.
Did
And
you
my
have the
very last car,
T-tops?
no,
Remember they
didn't have
had
the
those
TV.
detachable.
Yep,
Yeah.
yeah, on either side. The very last car we had when the series ended, I had a Pontiac Firebird Formula 400, which was probably my favorite out. Oh no, I take that back. Second favorite. My
Mm.
favorite was about 2 years before that. I took a all black, jet black Pontiac Grand Prix, '69, And it was that car that had the long hood and the short trunk. That was the first time I ever saw a car like that. I thought it was beautiful.
Wow.
And then they never seemed to get those again. So I had it one time, and I was like, "Hey, when are you getting another Grand Prix?" And
Yeah.
yeah,
And of course, My Three Sons. I mean, that was something really special. And you were saying, how did it come about where My Three Sons ended up coming in your direction? And it was, it was, wasn't it like almost four sons and a daughter kind of thing originally?
no, it was actually developed by Don Feddersen,
Yeah.
who wanted to do a show, and at the time, I don't even think he was thinking of Fred McMurray, and he wasn't even thinking of boys.
It was going to
He
be
produced
daughters.
he produced a show called The Lawrence Welk Show that had I forget if are they the Lennon sisters or McGuire sisters? I never
Right.
could remember. But
Right.
whatever, there was three of them,
Right.
and he had the ideas to develop the show for I believe it was the McGuire sisters, and yeah, so he thought, well, I got to get a dad. He proposed it to them, and I think he went to Eddie Albert to play the dad in it. And Eddie Albert agreed to be in it. And then the Lennon sisters or McGuire sisters, whichever pair of sisters, or whatever sisters it was, uh, backed out of it. They decided they didn't want to leave Lawrence Welk show. So kind of shot the whole idea down. And my theory is, he wanted to do it again and then thought, well, maybe I should change it to Three Sons. And then he was starting to look around for somebody else to star in it. And I would bet a lot that he went to see a movie called The Shaggy Dog, which was out in about 58. And 58, they made a film called Shaggy Dog that had Fred McMurray. It had Tim Considine in it. And then it had, what was his name? Tommy Kirk and Kevin Corcoran as the three boys. So there was three sons in it. And it had a shaggy dog, which was the shaggy dog. I think his name was Hobo or something like that. The only thing that was missing was the grandfather. And he must have seen that and something must have clicked in his brain thinking, wow, maybe I should do My Three Sons, not My Three Daughters. And I wonder if Fred McMurray would be interested in something like that. And he approached him, and turned out Fred was interested. He wasn't interested in going out on location anymore. He and June Haver had adopted twins. And Fred, I think, didn't want to go off and be gone for 3 months, 6 months at a pop. And a TV series, it's a grind, but it affords you the opportunity to work from whatever, 8 to 5, 6 o'clock at night, go home, be with your family at night, and did that 5 days a week. And then they concocted this shooting schedule that was going to work around him. So for the first 3 months, he would be there. He would work and be in every single scene. We'd shoot the master. They would shoot his close up, and most of the time neglecting to shoot our close ups and our two shots and over the shoulders. And did that for 3 months. And then Fred would depart and have the whole summer off, 3 months. And then at the end, he would come back for the final 3 months and shoot episodes that he hadn't shot. So, yeah, he'd come back. We'd finish off the series, shoot scenes that we shot maybe the beginning of, but he would walk into the scene and we would just pick it up right there and continue on. So that's how the show got done, and that's kind of how it got going. The casting of it too was kind of onerous. Tim, they decided they wanted because he had worked with Fred in The Shaggy
Mm.
Dog, and he was the right age for that. It was the Robbie character they were having some problems with. Yeah, the original person they had, I think, was a guy named Bobby Diamond, if I remember right. Something went wrong, and they ended up not using him. Got another actor named Billy Chapin, Lauren Chapin's brother,
Oh, yeah,
and
that's right.
we actually shot some with him, and then we stopped again, and then he was gone. They brought another guy in. I think we only shot a half a day with him, and I don't want to say fired him, but they let him go, and what I'd heard was they just thought he couldn't do comedy, so that was kind of strange. Anyway, and then they were still looking, and I remember my mom called a friend of hers who was a children's agent, and her son was Don Grady, who had been a Mouseketeer, and they saw Don, and Don got the part. He went in and knocked him dead, and he was perfect. So Yeah. And as for the actor who couldn't do comedy, that turned out to be Ryan O'Neal.
Really?
Yeah, yeah. But he found himself later, maybe it just wasn't right for him, or, the director we had the first year was very, very picky. I would say in terms of direction, that was probably the most direction we got from any director that worked on the show. And he was very meticulous, and he worked with the actors before every shot. We go work with him and, rehearse the scene and discuss the scene. And, most of the directors that followed after that were, nothing on that level. But I think he thought it was his responsibility to do that, to set the characters for what was to follow. How your character was going to be, and then kind of carve that into stone, and then you could continue to do it after that.
And of course, William Frawley was with it in the beginning, and you had
Yep.
a wonderful friendship with William Frawley. He was almost like an uncle or grandfatherly type for you. You just really bonded and sort of seemed to understand him and his uniqueness, right? As a talent, but also as an interesting fellow.
Yeah, no, that's the case. Bill, well, I knew of Bill before I did My Three Sons, only because I used to play hooky and watch I Love
I Love
Lucy.
Lucy, right?
And he was my favorite character. I just liked how he was grumpy, just made me laugh. And when I found out he was going to be the grandfather on the show, I was more than stoked about that. And I didn't know how he would react to me, but our scenes seemed to go always really well. And by that point in time, I think it was a conscious decision on my behalf. I never knew either of my real grandfathers. They were dead before I was born, so I never had a grandfather. So I'm gonna make this guy my grandfather. And so I would just do things and, would crack him up. And he just always wanted to spend time with me, and I'd spend time with him. And I think at some point, 2 or 3 years into it, I just came out and asked him, Bill, he's like, yeah. I go, would you be my grandfather? And I when I think about it, I think he might have teared up, at the request. And like I said, we just really bonded. He was just such a nice guy, and even off the set, he would drag me to baseball games, Dodger games, which
He
would be like
loved,
sporting event.
He was a big
And
Yankee fan,
yes,
wasn't he?
yeah. And
Didn't he have like
he
he had
did
a
a
deal
movie
with Desi
too.
Lou, with Desi
Yeah,
Onez, where whenever if they were in the playoffs or series or whatever,
yeah.
he would
He,
go and they would have to pause or
he,
whatever.
yeah, yeah. He made sure that was carved into his terms. Yeah, no, he liked that. And like I said, I'd have lunch with him every day, and
Yeah,
he'd always buy me a drink every
yeah,
noontime. And I remember my guardian would go, and when I'd look over, because I just got delivered I don't even know what it was. It was probably just whiskey straight up. She'd be like giving me the symbol, no, no, no.
yeah.
And so I'd have to wait. And when Bill was looking the other way, take the glass and dump
You
it
just
under the
dump it
table
in.
and put it back. And he never really noticed. So
And then,
uh,
when you've got the glue of a cast together, it's like a family. And
yeah,
then, there's contract negotiations, renewals, and new seasons and all. And they decide, I guess, due to his health, we can't have him continue in case if he passes away during filming or during a certain scene, then they bring in William Demarest, right? That must have been an interesting adjustment, especially when you're kids. You get used to a certain family of cast, and now this other person's gone and somebody else comes in. And it was the health of William Frawley that was the decision factor, I guess, huh?
Yeah, he was getting frailer and frailer, and he did have a heart issue that they, knew about. But every year before we could shoot, we'd have to go get a physical. And apparently he didn't pass his physical. They couldn't hear his heartbeat. And the doctor refused to sign off on it, which was the fait accompli for Bill. And unfortunately that combined with the way we shot. Had we shot like a normal series, which means you pick an episode and you start at the beginning, and as much as you can shoot it in order, you do, but you finish that show and then the next week you shoot the next episode. But because had this strange production schedule accommodating Fred MacMurray, we were shooting in 5, 6, 10 shows a day, little bits and pieces of scenes. And had they got 12 shows in, and they would have probably been unfinished if Fred MacMurray was in the scene but hadn't been around to shoot them, and Bill passed away, it would have been a catastrophe for the production company. They would have had to throw those 12 episodes away and start all over. And because the insurance company knew what was going on, it wouldn't be like a sudden death. They knew he was in poor health, so they weren't going to cover that. And so, yeah, they just didn't bring him back. They found an interim Uncle Troy. It was actually James Gregory.
Yeah.
Because they wanted Bill Demerson. He wasn't available. And I think James Gregory did one or more episodes. And he was also one of the O'Casey brothers. So, and
sort of gravelly, curmudgeon-y. Yeah.
Yeah, real cranky. Well,
yeah.
You saw Barney Miller, so you know how cranky James Gregory can.
Barney. Yeah.
Pretty much like that on X-15 when I was with him too. I think that was just him. But they got Bill Demerson, and Bill Demerson was, probably a bigger star than William Frawley. I mean, William Frawley's career kind of peaked at the end because of I Love Lucy, but William Demerson was a big star, back in the 30s and 40s. He was the quintessential second banana in movies. He was always the main guy's best friend, or the cop that was after you, or the business manager or partner of the main character.
Right.
So yeah, and he and Fred
wasn't he also
movies.
He was in It's a Mad, 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 Mad World too. Yeah.
Yeah, he was Mad, Mad, Mad World. Miracle on 34th Street, I think it was.
So he was
some other very high-profile movies. Yeah, so he was very established and dependable. And unlike Bill Frawley, he didn't drink, so they probably thought that was a plus too. So they hired him, and he kind of looked cranky. So I thought he was scary. I don't know, it was something more cherubic and panda-like.
Yeah.
Bill Frawley.
With Bill Frawley.
Right. Yeah, he was a nice guy. I think it was more on me that I was angry that they didn't bring Bill back. It was just a personal thing. I'm like, you didn't bring my friend back. And so I kind of didn't warm up to him right away. I just thought, you took my friend's job, and I'm not going to like you even if I like you. So that kind of went on for a little bit, but he was just a really nice guy too. It was the same thing as Bill Frawley. They were cut from the same cloth, and eventually warmed up. And as I got older, I realized, oh my God, this guy's had a hell of a career too, just from a business acting point of view. And eventually the pain of Bill departing kind of passed away. And Bill Demerson and I became very good friends, both on and off. I'd go down to his house in Palm Springs. I think I only played golf with him once, but he was a cool guy, really cool guy. And I mean, great stories from all the movies he was in. And, I was too young at that time to talk shop with Bill Frawley,
Right.
I wasn't old enough to do that. And even with Fred MacMurray, even when I was in my late teens is when I decided, I think I want to be behind the camera. I'm going to learn everything about it. And I tortured the cameramen, the editors, and our assistant director to learn everything that they knew. But it, would have been the opportunity probably to talk to Fred about acting and craft and all that stuff. But I thought I was going to be going another direction. But later in life, I would have still liked to have that conversation, but it was too late. I wasn't seeing him as regularly. I'd seen him at functions or events that I would go to. So,
Did he play the saxophone part on the theme "My Three Sons," or were you guys just because you had sort of the band on the show too?
Yeah, we did. That was kind of creative, but everybody by then was playing an instrument. When I turned 13, I went to a pawn shop and bought a guitar. Don was already a fantastic musician, could play any instrument.
Yeah.
Fred actually did play the sax. I think there's an album with Fred as a
Right.
singer and playing his sax from probably early or mid 1930s. So yeah, he was a saxophone player. He came out here with some other guys. They were in a band,
Yeah.
and that's what he did, and somehow got a part in the movie business that turned him into a huge movie star. And he kind of left that behind, but he still played his sax, not on the set, but he knew how to play. And when he'd bring it to the set, when we would jam, when we were sometimes they'd have a song. We were supposed to have this family band thing. He'd bring his sax, and yeah, it was obvious he knew what he was doing. And William Demas was a virtuoso on a cello, so
That's right.
kind of an odd assortment of instruments together to make a rock band. Yeah, like a guitar, a bass, a rhythm guitar, a cello, and a saxophone. I don't know. It would be like the Rolling Stones kind of mashed up with Dave Brubeck or something.
I know. Yeah, but it was funny. It was interesting. You would be in the kitchen or wherever and performing and just doing.
Yeah.
It was really, really cool stuff. Another thing too, in addition to, of course, My Three Sons, How the West Was Won.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that was probably my favorite movie I was ever in.
Yeah.
This goes back again to when I was in that hole in the TV.
Right.
I wanted to be a cowboy. I watched all those cowboy shows on TV, and my mom bought me at the toy store. I had a vest, and I had the pair of 6-shooters, cap guns, and the hat and the scarf and all that.
Yeah.
I'd wear that when I was doing the shows. But it was always my dream to get into a Western, to be on like Wagon Train or Tombstone Territory or Rifleman or something. And all my friends were getting cast in all these Westerns, and I never got cast. And finally, about 1962, 63, my agent got a call from somebody at MGM, and they wanted me to be in this movie called How the West Was Won, and to meet with the director of the unit I would have been in, which was Henry Hathaway. And I went in, and we hit it off, and I had to lose 5 pounds, but that was okay. I belonged to Vic Tandy Gym back then, and lay off the donuts on the set.
That's it.
So yeah, I got hired on that. So it was like a dream come true, because I thought, wow, finally I'm gonna ride horses, because I knew how to ride horses. I took horseback riding lessons, and every chance I could, I'd be at Griffith Park riding horses. And I figured they'd probably have real guns in it. Somebody showed me how to shoot it, and I get to wear a cowboy coat and a hat.
Yeah.
So I was stoked. And we went off on location and shot that. It was shot in multiple locations. It was shot in Kingman, Arizona, Prescott, Arizona. We were up in Lone Pine, California, and a lot of it was shot at the MGM lot in Culver City.
Yeah.
But that was quite an experience. It was
so
worked
cool.
on it for like 3 months. Yeah, it took forever to shoot it. So
just shows the breadth of variety, at such a young age, to be handed these different kinds of genres of roles, and to be able to take them on in the way that you did and make them your own and make them so convincing and real is a real talent. That's why they spotted you. And that's why, the phone was ringing, because you were able to take all these on and knock them out of the park, Stan.
Yeah, well, by then My Three Sons had been on the air for at least a couple of years. So I had dozens of episodes that kind of started me doing.
It did it. And even the Virginia came calling, right? The Virginian wanted you.
They wanted me. And interesting, before My Three Sons, right at the precipice of them wanting me for My Three Sons, I was up for a lead part in a movie. There was a movie going to be made called Huckleberry Finn. I think it was with Tony Randall, eventually made it. And I had seen the earlier one with Tommy Kelly from 1938, the Tom Sawyer. And I was all into, having a raft and been going on a river with it. And, I had read Tom Sawyer and Huckleberry Finn. So I thought, that's me. And this offer came up because originally it was going to be a musical.
Right.
And right as My Three Sons was being presented, they wanted me to hire me to be Huckleberry Finn in this, and they had changed the movie from being a musical to just a regular acting part, and so left up to me, I would have picked Huckleberry Finn. I wouldn't have picked My Three Sons because that's what I wanted to do. I had just got a new agent because my agent just a couple months before that was killed in an automobile accident. The lady who discovered me at the pool nurtured my career, and I mean, I think I became her only client too at one point because I was working so much, and she just believed in me. But anyway, she was wiser. Well, she was out of it, and we ended up with another agent named Jeannie Halliburton, who was a pretty famous children's agent too at that point in time. And my parents didn't know what to do, to take the movie or take the series. The movie sounded very illustrious, and the TV series was just another TV series, although it was supposed to have Fred McMurray in it. But she said, no, 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 no. You want to take the series. Here's the deal with movies. You'll do it. It'll come out 3 months later. Nobody will even remember that they saw it. And I'm sure from a personal standpoint, she's thinking, he does the movie, he's going to get one paycheck. He does My Three Sons, he's getting 39
He's getting
paychecks.
39.
But she knew we'd be shooting 39 episodes, and she negotiated the deal. So she knew how much money I would be getting. And so turned down the movie and did My Three Sons. But yeah, the very last year, My Three Sons, my contract was expiring or about to expire. And I either had to sign back up, and then my agent got an offer. They wanted to create a character in Virginian for me. So again, I was like, wait a minute, I get to ride a horse, shoot a gun, put a hat on. I know. Well, then there was the other side of the coin. By then I was married. I had a kid to support. So I'm like, I may look young, but I had a lot of responsibility, and I was going to college 4 nights a week. And when a push came to shove, I thought, I can't leave the show. I'd feel like a rat deserting a ship. I didn't think I could do it. And ultimately I turned it down, stuck with My Three Sons, and did the last year My Three Sons. In fact, that's the reason there's a couple episodes I'm not in, because they didn't know if I was coming back. So preemptively, they kind of were, preparing for that. If that was the advent, so they had some place to go. And, yeah, you often wonder. I mean, the other side of me was, hey, this would show me in another character, not Chip. You're an entirely different person, and to be in a period piece and be in a Western could do wonders for my career, especially since you were just known as Chip. This would be a whole year of being seen another way. But in terms of longevity, My Three Sons went one more year, which was the year I came back. Or I would have done the Virginian, and they were canceled after that anyway. So either way, it would have been a year-long thing. So I don't know. I've always been able to live with myself in that I didn't leave My Three Sons.
You stuck with it.
I signed up.
I
should just go all the way wherever it goes. Yeah.
Stick with it, right? And you certainly have, which is amazing. We people may forget too that you were the voice of this character, the Roman Holiday.
Yeah.
Happiest Holiday.
Yep. That's
what was it like doing that?
It was fun. Unfortunately for me, I didn't realize what a good gig that was.
Right, huh?
It's just sort of like, it was almost like bothersome that I would have to go in, for 1 day a week and spend all of 3 hours, rehearsing and recording of it. Yeah, but it was a great gig, and I had a lot of fun doing it, and I liked the people I was doing it with. And one of the guys that was on it, I always wanted to meet him. He was kind of the Mel Blanc of Hanna-Barbera, a guy named Dawes Butler, who did all, Huckleberry Hound, and, all the different great characters they had. And he was just, a real sweetheart guy. And Dave Willock, and one of the guys that came in and did, all these shows have what they call additional voices needed. So one of the guys that was there a lot was Mickey Dolenz. And I knew Mickey anyway, because he had done a My Three Sons episode. So but he was a good pal back then, at least while we were doing that. And there was a girl on there that was kind of cute. Her name was Judy Strangest. I think her brother Glenn Strangers was the creator and writer for Love American Style.
Oh,
But
yes.
yeah, I think I sort of had a crush on her, so I was sort of like, yeah, I think I'll go ahead and do this. But yeah, so I did a season, and then after that, they kept calling me back to do the additional voices for other shows. So I did some Devlins, I think it was called, and the other show was Scooby Doo's.
Oh,
So I
yeah.
did additional voices for that. But
So
yeah,
cool.
that was kind of fun. It was different than doing. They hired me more just to be a teenage voice for Roman holidays. Or the other ones, I could talk like that, and be a motorcycle. Or I don't remember what I did for Scooby Doo's, but you would do whatever you could.
That is
So
so funny. That's amazing. You enjoy doing the animated voices? Have you been doing more
I
of
only
that?
no
Yeah,
no I only did that little period of
that was
time,
it.
and,
Yeah,
and then I was like, yeah, that was good, but that's not really my thing. And I remember
right.
they called me, and I either had something else to do, and I think by that time I had a production company, so I was doing other things with it, either directing, producing either commercials or industrials or music videos or whatever the heck we were doing back then. And so sometimes I would be unavailable to show up, and I think they just, I guess, took it the wrong way and kind of phased me out. But that was dumb of me not to. If there was any way possible to have gone in there and kept doing it, because I think they liked my work. I think they liked it better when I was doing the other voices
Right.
than the kid voice. I mean, you can get anybody to do that, but
Yeah.
mine was, I guess, known, or people go, God, that sounds like somebody. In fact, that was funny. Like I said, I went to college 4 nights a week, and I was in I think I had a trigonometry class, and you talk to the teacher occasionally, ask something. And I remember on the break, some guy came up to me and said, "Hey, do you do cartoon voices on Saturday morning?" And I went, "Yeah." He goes, "Oh, my son listened." He goes, "Yeah, I couldn't figure out where I knew your voice from, and then I heard it last Saturday, and I realized it had to be you." I said, "Yep, yep, must have been watching Roman holidays or
The Roman
something."
holidays.
Yeah,
That is so cool.
yeah,
How one of the characters too, of course, on beloved characters on My Three Sons is a friend of yours too, Dawn Lynn. How is Dawn Lynn doing these days?
she's doing better than she has been. Yeah, she's
She's gone through
probably
some rough
the
times, huh? At an
really
early
rough times.
age.
Yeah, for the past almost 2 years, she's been going through the mill and had a stroke, and just the rehab is taking
Yeah.
forever, and then they ran out of insurance money.
Hmm.
Let that be a warning to everybody out there. You don't know what you're going to get, but if you're laying in a hospital bed for a year, that you'll blow right through your $1 or $2 million cap. And they just go, you got to leave.
Right.
Even if you can't get up,
You're
you got
out.
to leave. Yeah, get her out. And somehow her husband, who's been there every inch of the way for her, John, he's amazing that he has been able to be by her side and to finagle all the things he's finagled to get her back into these hospitals where it's you get partially therapy, and she needs assisted living till she's able to get back up on her feet. So, and it's just a slow recovery. It's a very slow recovery. She's had some setbacks. So, yeah, we all are wishing her the best, of course. I went to see her, it was probably about 6 months ago, planning on trying to go there again. I think she's in a different facility now. But yeah, it's been a rough road. But fortunately, a lot of people love her and are showing up. Tina Cole, I know, has visited there 2 or 3 times, and other friends that are
Yeah.
her age have gone there to see her. And
Yeah.
yeah, being only age 59, I think I think she finally turned 60, but that's still way too young to have anything like this.
Absolutely right. We talk about some of your other work. You got a chance to produce this, right?
Yeah,
What was this
yeah,
like? This
it's a
was cool.
feature. It was a
Yeah.
great experience.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I ended up producing that, and did other things on it too. We had a DP who quit, so guess who the DP was? I had to take over that position and a few other positions. I was also the editor on it. But I got the script from a friend of mine named Robert Hummer, and I thought it was a great script. He's a playwright, but I thought it made good material for a film. And it's sort of everything My Three Sons isn't. It's not like
Right.
a great dad and three great sons. It's sort of like, well, as you can see, Richard Hurd. I guess people
Yeah,
know him from T.J. Hooker
you're
and
right.
China Syndrome. I mean, he was, yeah, big actor.
Yeah.
He's kind of another second banana that was always working. He just passed away recently. Uh, but yeah, you know, the story you're trying to figure what happened, but it ostensibly is about a father who comes to LA to visit his four sons. And it doesn't start off well and goes downhill from there. Um, he shows up and basically the first guy, the first night, is in his bedroom at 3 in the morning calling the next brother and going, did you know dad was coming down here? And he's like, Dad? No. He's going, well, I'm thinking maybe you could pick him up and take him tomorrow. And so the movie is these four brothers sort of playing hot potato with the dad because they don't want to deal with him and they don't like him. And you're wondering why, because he seems, okay, and he could be a little bit, you don't know whether it's Alzheimer or dementia, but he's, kind of acting a certain way. But it kind of, you perceive him as not a threat. But as the movie progresses, you find out this guy was like a monster when they were growing up, and was full of piss and vinegar, and was a drinker, and basically abused his wife, abused the kids, and they're terrified of him and don't really want to spend time around him. And anyway, the movie ends up coming up to a head. One of the sons actually wants to kill him. So, it's a black comedy, that being
Right.
said. So it's kind of really all out there. In fact, one of the
Yeah.
scenes, my favorite scene is where he goes to visit that second brother who comes to pick him up the day after he arrives. Uh, he prepares a dinner for him, and you see him eating, and they're not really talking. And then it cuts to later that night, and the dad's behind him, and he's just kind of sitting in a chair with like this, how did I get into this look on his face? And the dad's behind him, and he's reading the label of a coffee can because they don't have anything to say. And then it cuts forward again, and you hear a voice, like, Dave, hi, it's John. What are you doing? Oh, well, did you know Dad was going to be down here? And I'm just wondering what you're doing tomorrow. But you don't see the guy, and you just see the whole living room. And we had it so the camera's just slowly going to the couch, and then it kind of goes up and over, and he's laying on the floor trying to talk quietly so the dad doesn't hear him to get rid of the dad to the next brother. So yeah, the whole movie is pretty outrageous. It's and it's funny because we had it at a film festival, and I thought, wow, I don't know how this material, you never know how a screening's going to go, but we had a full audience. And I guess because of the subject matter, it seemed to be an older audience. They were like in their 40s and 50s. And we ran the film. And so anyway, afterwards, you could either go to the next film, or I was able to have the festival bring all the actors to it. And they announced that we'd be doing a Q&A afterwards if anybody wanted to stay. And the funny part was it ended and nobody left.
They
What is going
stayed.
on? They stayed because they wanted to get into it. And I got up there and talked about the film, and then Bob got up and talked about the film, and then introduced the cast. Well, it turned out, I guess, more people have a life like that and are all damaged goods because of their parents than the people who had a Fred McMurray or Ozzie Nelson as your dad. And
Right.
I
Or
felt like
Donna Reed. Yeah.
we got involved in almost like a therapy session is really what it was coming down to. And finally we were only asked to leave, and that we were in there for a full hour when it was supposed to be a 15-minute Q&A. And the next film had to start, and there was an audience waiting outside. But yeah, that felt good. The thing I wasn't sure about whether the black comedy would work. That's always risky. It's not like Jim Carrey comedy, and it was subtle, and you either get it because there were what I would call uncomfortable things going on where you want the characters to say something and they couldn't. So there's this strained silence. And I
Right.
was saying to the cast, don't be afraid of that. You don't have to
Part of it.
talk. That's part of acting is not always having to talk, but kind of being in these kind of situations where you're holding back, but we can read what's going on in your face and your eyes and all that. And
Yeah.
these actors were really totally amazing. And yeah, I love that movie. But like I said, it's kind of strange. I made a movie that's like, the antithesis of my
Of the
film.
opposite. Can that still be seen? Is it on Tubi or is it anywhere?
I'd have to check on that. I'm not sure. It could either be on Tubi,
Pluto or these other, all these channels now. Yes.
Yeah, there's so many channels. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll have to find out.
Check that out. You were in this too, involved with this, Private Parts.
Oh yeah, I love that movie.
Yeah. Tell us about that.
It's my one, I guess, horror thriller, I guess you would call it. And I remember my agent got called and said, "Oh, the director wanted to meet with you about this film." And at the time, it was called what's it called, Vital Parts. And I thought, Vital Parts? Is that really the name of the film? I said, well, for my three sons, 2 years later, he's done Vital Parts. So I met, and was a director named Paul Bartel. This was to be his first film, and he was kind of a spooky but interesting guy. He kind of, what I got out of it, I think he wanted to be the next Alfred Hitchcock. He was just kind of had a weird personality and very circumspect, but he was kind of a fun guy too. We really hit it off. And so I said, well, what about that title? Are you really going to go with Vital Parts? He goes, well, we're thinking about changing it. And he told me what the original title was. And I didn't say anything. I thought, well, let's see what they come up with. I said, gee, I wonder if that'll cause you a problem when you go to distribute it. Kind of sounds like a porno movie, just putting it out there, just saying. He goes, yeah, we're coming up with another title. So I was like, okay, great. So anyway, I got hired and did the film, which was fun. We shot it downtown LA in a very decrepit part of LA that was known as Skid Row.
Oh yeah.
With all the winos out there every morning when I would arrive at 6 a.m. to go to work. The police paddy wagon was coming along and picking up all the bodies laying in the alley on the side of the hotel, and or up against the stoop in front. And we shot at a hotel called the King Edward Hotel, which at one time was the nicest hotel in downtown LA. It was right near the train station. And there was a clock in this amazing marble covered lobby. And the clock had these letters above it, and it said TR. And I remember one day the clerk guy was there, and I said, is this place, I said, how come it has TR? And he goes, oh, they put that there in honor of Teddy Roosevelt because he stayed in the hotel.
Whoa. He
came to town and stayed here. Yeah. Anyway, that was kind of strange, but that's going back quite a few years.
Yeah.
Too. Yeah, while we were there, there was kind of a flop house too. It wasn't a hotel you would want to stay in. They just wanted it because it was very atmospheric. Once you got up to the levels where the rooms were, it was creepy. It was really creepy, especially the cellar area and all the things that they had rented it for. To be a real creepy place.
Wow. Anyway, I was saying, this movie ended up, Private Parts, that is.
Private Parts, yeah.
Being, when they advertised it, the newspapers had a section in those days that if you did an X-rated movie or an R-rated movie sometimes, you would end up on these grayed out pages. They didn't have the full black ink. They were gray, so people knew what they were getting into. And none of the papers, because of the title, would accept Private Parts. And even though it was a movie by MGM, they didn't want to run the ad for it, and they finally pulled the film, even though it had, like I said, a rave review from Judith Crist. It looked like Paul was on a trajectory to become a bona fide Alfred Hitchcock director, and bad timing. And I thought, years later, I thought they should have gone with the original title, and that would have never happened. It was called Blood Relations.
Oh, yeah.
And that would have worked because, well, if you've seen the movie, you'll know why the blood part worked without giving anything away. But I was always proud of it. Unfortunately, it languished for years from about 1974, 75. Eventually, Turner bought MGM. He bought the entire library, and apparently he liked the film and wanted it to play. So the place where it plays is Turner Broadcasting, who
So
runs it,
it's
and they run it
Turner.
as like one of those midnight movies
Yeah,
because it
Turner
is
Classic
pretty
Movies.
creepy. And I've
Yeah.
watched it again maybe a couple of years ago. I was like, wow, yeah, it's a good little film, and
Yeah.
it's certainly atmospheric. The guy that shot it actually went on to real fame and fortune. A guy named Andrew Davis was our DP,
Yeah.
and he went on to become a big time action director, directed like most of the early Steven Seagal movies, and a lot of big films. But it was obvious he had talent, and parlayed that into a directorial position.
Yeah.
And went on and on from there.
High School USA.
Yep. Well, I made the movie. I ended up not being in the final product. I kind of had a subplot in there with Dana Plato, which wasn't her whole thing, and they decided to eliminate that. I guess the movie came out long, and all my scenes with her, I was supposed to be an older guy, an attorney directing her, and she's only in high school. Actually, now that I think about it, probably was a good idea. I mean, I didn't want to come off like a creep or something, but here's some 30-year-old guy dating a high school girl. That sounds pretty pathetic. So I guess in those days you could get away with that. Nobody would read anything into it.
Exactly.
But it was fun to do. And it was kind of, I think, one of the first or few times they populated a movie with all these people who had been on different TV shows.
Right.
I think,
which is amazing because speaking of the devil, look at that, huh?
Yeah. I think
there's a lot of classic television and film history in this picture.
Yeah, we did some film stills at the CBS over on Fairfax. And I believe this was for Father's Day, obviously, because of the ties. And then we shot some without ties too. I've seen those. But yeah, this has really got a
look at all these names.
Kind of a who's who of child actors there with looks like Bill Mooney. Is that Bill Mooney?
Yeah, Bill Mooney.
Yeah, then Barry, and then Ron Howard, Anissa Jones, Clint Howard. Or no, it's not Johnny Whitaker.
And
then Clint Howard, and then Anissa Jones.
You're right in the center square there.
Yeah, I was in the center because I was probably about 16 there, where these people were all like about 11 or 12. So
you were the big brother.
I was the big bro there. Yeah.
You're involved in something else too, which I think is very special. That's definitely worth noting, because you like to, with all of your accolades and incredible background, and whether it's on camera or behind the scenes, the actor's journey.
Yeah. Well, I don't want it to be my swan song, but to be really honest, I'd rather be remembered for this than even Chip from My Three Sons. I mean, I know I've entertained a lot of people over the years with My Three Sons, but I wanted to put something back in the industry of myself and for other actors or people that want to be actors. And there's this really horrible part of becoming an actor that they really don't tell you, because they want to get your money, meaning going to acting school or going to Yale or Harvard or the Actors Studio or out here to UCLA, USC. Yeah, so you can drop 30, 40 grand or 100 grand if you go to Yale or Harvard, training yourself as an actor. And that's not to say that you don't need to do that thing. You do, and that's the fun part. Unfortunately, involving yourself as an actor in the entertainment industry is a two-component proposition. The first component is you learn the art and craft of acting, and you learn your craft so that you're a capable actor, whether you're on stage or whether you're in front of a camera. The other part, which is like 90% of it, is what I call the business part of being an actor. The non-performance skills that an actor needs to eventually learn to launch a career, to develop it, hopefully keep it going, keep it stimulated and alive for years and years so that you can work. And that's just not taught. It's amazing to me that the industry, I've even seen reference to this problem in it was like a film from 1928 or something, and there was a photo from it, and I think I borrowed the photo, and it's saying something like, be sure before you involve yourself as an actor in the industry that you get full and frank information on the business side of being an actor. Well, that's a great statement, but there was nowhere to go get that. And I decided to do something about that. And what I did was, I kept having people say, well, why don't you do it? Why don't you do it? You have a production company, you've been an actor, but you've also been the director, producer, and that would be a good thing. So finally, I decided to do it. I contacted 100 of my closest friends in the industry, actors, producers, directors, showrunners, agents, managers, casting directors, and a couple pals of mine. Right when we shot it, one was the president of the Screen Actors Guild, another was the president of the Directors Guild of America, and I brought them all together to teach this program on the business of acting. And it's a 10-hour long program. It was originally out on DVD, and at this moment in time, we're hoping it's going to come up as a streaming media program, probably within a month or two. As soon as I can apply myself and get it done, I keep going off on tangents, doing my own thing, and then I come back to it. But so yeah, there'll be a 10-hour long program. It covers soup to nuts. There's 65 different segments that are related to the business aspects and the processes involved of what you're supposed to be doing when you're not acting. Because what you're going to find out as an actor, even if you've managed to work a lot and had a whole career as I did, and I've been doing this for 68 years, if you add up my 3 sons, all the movies I did, all the TV parts I did, and just say for a heck of it, throw the 5 or 6 plays that I've been in, all 12 weeks of that, you could load it up on a projector and it would probably last 6 months, maybe 9 months. So what does that tell you? It meant the other 67 years of my life, I was looking for work and how to learn the business side of the industry to get that work. So yeah, an actor, acting, that's the thing you do the least when you're an actor. Right. You talk about it, you go out on interviews, you go out on auditions. There's, it's just all this stuff that swirls around it. But the time you actually spend in front of the camera up on stage at the end of your career, if you have a long career, is not really that much. So, you really have to be a peculiar breed of person to want to do this. And you need to know a lot more than just acting, I guess is what I'm saying.
Somebody told me once, an actor way back, a legendary actor, and I asked them the question, about people getting into the industry, what would you say? And they say, well, look, if 50% of you wants to be an accountant and the other 50% wants to be the actor, be the accountant, because you have to be 100% in to be able to, really master this and deal with all the different things that come at you, which are not necessarily predictable. So you got to be 100% in.
Yeah, no, you definitely have to be that. It's sort of like you're in the beginning of it when you don't know anybody and nobody knows you. You're the only one advocating for yourself, and you have to learn how to do that properly so that you don't turn people off by being too aggressive, learning how to be politely aggressive and what's acceptable. That's why we kind of show people what you need to do to do that until you get to the level where hopefully you get an agent. And then even then they don't handle everything, they're just another way to get a job. But,
right.
In this day and age, you're really kind of responsible for doing your own thing, so to speak. So yeah, there's a lot of, just so many different facets of it that belong in this business part of it that it just galls me that, nobody's ever taught it. The Screen Actors Guild doesn't teach it. I think they have a few classes, but it's, the stuff you would expect them to say. You need a resume. If you can get a clip reel together, that's great. You want to try and get an agent. You want to try and get in the Screen Actors Guild. Just a smattering of the things, but those are the most obvious things. And if there's only 5, 6, 7 of those, then how come we have 60? So
right.
That'll tell you it's a little bit deeper than that. And the people that we got, when I put it together, I thought, well, I want to get 100 people that I know have been doing this 20, 30 years. So they really know whereof they speak. But I don't want it just to be actors, because when you come in that room, there's all, everybody looks at the same thing, but from a different facet. from their own point of view. So it really helps to know what the other guy is thinking, what he's looking for, the director or the producer or the casting director, and how it all plays out. So I think those are really important things to know. So yeah, we got, some pretty cool people. Henry Winkler is one of the guys. Sherman Hemsley. One of the directors actually was the guy that I worked with, Richard Donner, who went on. You couldn't ask for a better director, a more high-profile director. He was the guy that directed The Omen, Superman, the one with Chris Reeves, all the Lethal Weapon movies, Maverick, dozens of films. So one of the most accomplished directors, but and he started off trying to be an actor, so he got it. A lot of these people get it. Yeah, of the other side of what it is.
Is there anybody that you wish that you got a chance to work with in these 68 years that you've put into this business? Whether they're a personality or a director?
Well, who wouldn't want to work with Steven Spielberg? I could say definitely that. Had I pursued acting, I think I'm kind of, I don't want to say the same type, but I think I fit more into that category, be like a Richard Dreyfuss kind of guy. I think I would have been capable of doing stuff like that. I'm not Brad Pitt, so that's out. And then that's the one good thing. If you're doing this and you succeed, you can do it your entire life. I started off at 4, and this year coming up, I'll be 74. So there you go. You can do it for a while.
It goes by fast.
Huh? Yeah, Barry just turned 70, and he's as busy as a bee out there going from project to project.
I was going to say, how is he doing? He's busy. He's doing well.
Yeah, no, he's always working. It seems like at least every month, he's got a TV show, high-profile TV show, some big cable show, or a major feature film. Yeah, people. Sometimes I think they don't realize they're seeing him, but he's been in some Academy Award nominated films. He was in The Zodiac. He was in The Social Network. He was in Argo.
That's right.
So it's not always the biggest part, but work. You just take it. In fact, a couple months ago, I think about maybe 3 or 4 months ago, he got a call from his agent, and they said, the casting people asked for you. Can you leave tonight to fly to Mexico City to be in a film starring Michael Douglas? So he went down to Mexico City and did whatever it is they asked him to do. I saw him in a tuxedo, so maybe he was a maitre d', I don't know, or a funeral parlor director or something.
Yeah, one of the best investments your parents made way back then with Barry was the pair of eyeglasses. That has been the trademark forever, which is amazing.
Eyesight, not his eyesight that he can't see, but losing perfect 20/20 lenses to have to wear glasses for the early part of his career really benefited him. The other thing that benefited him, and he was struggling, I think, as an actor before that, was he lost his hair. His hair started thinning when he was in his I think mid-30s, and I remember he bought a toupee, and in fact we went off to do a play, and he was freaked out that the toupee was going to fly off every night, and finally went out on an audition for something, and when he had the toupee on, it really cut maybe 5, 7, 8 years off the way he really looked. And I remember he went in on an audition, and they looked in and said, you're kind of what we want, but you're a little bit too young looking. And Barry just reached up and went, how about now? Oh, that's right. So
no scenes with fans.
Barry retired the toupee, and he's had a prolific career playing doctors, lawyers, accountants. He played the accountant in the Jersey Boys. So there you go. And he's played God knows how many doctors he's played.
Yeah,
attorneys and CPAs. Yeah, he's the quintessential professional look.
Yeah, and it goes all the way back to then, huh?
Yeah.
Is this in Pennsylvania?
That was actually, I think, in Baltimore. I think my brother put Pennsylvania, but I think it was in Baltimore.
Look at that, huh?
At my Uncle Sam's house.
You know how old you guys are there?
Barry looks about 4 or 5, and I'm 3 years older. So
wow.
Yeah, so if he's 5, 6, 7, 8, I guess I'm 8 probably.
Wow.
Possibly 9. I mean, this was right before my three sons, but I look a little bit older than I did in Skippy. So,
Is this your dad?
yeah, that's my dad.
That's
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah, he kind of had a real 40s look,
Yeah.
40s haircut.
Big
He always
dapper.
looked that way. Yeah, my mom was really gorgeous. She was like drop dead beautiful. And
Yeah.
my dad was kind of like the Woody Allen type,
Right.
but he was a real brain. And, you just accept them as your mom and dad when you're growing up. But later
Yeah.
you're like looking at it going, what did she see in him? It's sort of like, but then I've seen pictures of my dad when he was younger and didn't have the glasses and
Yeah.
the bad haircut and the bad clothing. He looked like he looked like Jude Law. Is
He
what
looked
I
like
would say
Jude
he
Law.
looked like. Yeah, he was actually a very good looking guy. When he got older, he kind of looked more like William Holden. When he
Oh
had his
yeah.
glasses
Yeah. Sort
on.
of
Yeah.
grew into that.
He kind of grew into
Distinguished sort of. What would Stanley of today say to young Stanley then?
that. Don't go into show business. You just got to follow your dreams in your heart. I mean, I know a lot of people out there have dreams, and you have to find a way to make them, come true.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of it isn't what you think it is. You just think if I become an actor, it'll all happen for me. And like I said, there's this whole other part nobody's going to tell you about. I think maybe it's left that way so you'll go away. It thins the crowd out, thins the herd. But yeah, you really just have to follow your dreams. And one of my other things is always say yes. If there's a job, don't try to outthink it. Just take the job. If it's no good, nobody's going to see it anyway, and you never know who's going to see it. And you never know who you worked with that saw it or worked with you that you didn't realize was assessing you. They come into a position of power and are interested in you for a part or whatever. You don't know how it's going to play out. And being flexible, and doing maybe more than one thing. Don't just have one thing. Don't just be an actor. I would say don't be ashamed of getting regular jobs, because whatever happens there and what you learn and the experiences you have, that's what you're going to be bringing, to the movie industry or TV industry, is your real experiences in your life. If you don't have any, then it's all artificial.
Right.
It's just like, oh, well, I want to be actor. I'm great. I watched TV for 20 years. I know everything, but that's not real.
Exactly. What are some exciting things? You mentioned the documentary you're working on. Any other cool things that you're excited about coming up, Stan?
Well, probably excited about getting back to work on this TV pilot I had, which I thought was funny. I had some partners on that, and it's just been laying dormant because of other things that I've been doing. Yeah, it's kind of a funny idea. It's about a Jewish guy who meets a Chinese girl. They go to college together and they kind of fall for each other, and they live in another city and come back to LA, and neither of their parents, the Chinese girl thinks her mom's real strict Chinese, thinks she's been dating a Chinese guy, and his parents don't even know anything about him having a girlfriend, and they just, right as it opens, are getting engaged. And when they move back to LA, they decide not to tell their parents right away because they don't want the grief. And part of the grief was they both studied in college practices that they tried. He studied to become a lawyer and actually did it for a while and hated it. He just did it because his parents wanted him to. And same thing with her. She got a degree in something that's totally useless, scientific. And she has other aspirations. So they have. It's basically the case, you say, well, okay, well, what could go wrong? A Jewish guy marries a Chinese girl. What could go wrong? Well, everything goes wrong. The first episode, the mother finds out she's back and wants to have a dinner party for her. And the guy has to get introduced as like a roommate, not a boyfriend or fiance. And she has to keep remembering to take this ring off. So it has a lot of humor in it. And part of it too is based that when they get back to LA, this is what they did just before they left the city they were departing from. After they didn't do their jobs that they're telling their parents that they did, they bought a house and they flipped it. So when they get back to LA, they buy this piece of crap and they're slowly going to be flipping it, but it's almost like the money pit kind of thing.
Sounds funny, huh?
Yeah, it's very, very funny. So
Do you love comedy? Is that a
I do.
preference of
Yeah,
yours?
no,
Yeah.
I still like it. I'm still a
Yeah.
Three Stooge fan, a sophomore, because there's probably not a week that goes by that I don't, before I go to bed, turn on the Three Stooges for a couple of things. I've seen those episodes so many times and know them by heart, but it's still, I look at it not as the Three Stooges, but as three performers having to pull that off and not hurt each other.
Right.
And it's just amazing to me that, three guys can come together and they got a shtick.
Yeah.
And that's what they do. But it's just a shtick, because I've never seen Low Howard talk or find it. They're nothing like those characters. They're not slapping and beating each other, poking each other in the eye.
We're all
trying to keep from hurting people. Yeah,
right.
Yeah. I'm just a regular guy, man. I like Three Stooges.
Did you get asked to be on the game shows a lot through the years?
I
too?
did, and I never watched game shows, and I just. Not that I didn't like them. I just felt that wasn't really for me.
Right. Yep. I'm sure you got asked a lot to be on them, right?
Yeah. It was those. It was like those 16 magazine things too.
Right.
I think I did one or two of those, and I felt really
Teen Beat and all those things.
Yeah. It's like, can you open your shirt more? Okay, down to your belly button. Okay, now look dreamy. And I'm like, man, this is weird. Plus, I'm married. I got a kid.
Yeah.
This is
it's a whole other
really, really wrong for me. I don't know. Maybe if you're David Cassidy.
Kind of like the My Three Sons Partridge Family special that you guys could have did, that Thanksgiving special.
Yeah, that was like one of the wonders of all time. What was that all about? It'd be like somebody saying, hey, let's get Starsky and Hutch and we're going to put them together with the real McCoys.
Right.
That's a great idea.
Or with the Jeffersons, right?
Yeah. Put the real McCoys and the Jeffersons together. Yeah. That would be a good one.
That would be
that came up in Dick Clark's. I guess he ran ran the numbers through a computer, and it said, "Get these two people.
They're hot commodities shows, put them together,
now. Yeah, cover all your bases.
Get them all in there."
It was fun doing the show. We all got along and knew each other, but it's sort of like, "What are you doing?" Well, what are you doing? And it was fun seeing all the cast members from the show because for a week we all did get together and be with the entire cast except for Dodie, which I thought was not right, but it wasn't my call.
Yeah. You before we wrap, do you have a favorite? I'm sure people are asking this, thinking this. And we thank everybody who's been commenting. Everybody's been saying hello and wishing you well. And do you have a favorite episode of My Three Sons?
I do, and it doesn't star the main characters. You're not going to believe the episode I think is the greatest because I thought it was the most clever script that My Three Sons ever had. The title of the show is called A Small Adventure, and it stars Tramp. And the storyline was, Tramp was, seen in a lot of the episodes, and he runs in and out of the scenes and does his thing. But this particular episode was written around Tramp. He's a cheerful dog and goes out and does his thing, trying to meet female dogs. And he ends up going to it looks like a building site, and he picks up a piece of percussive dynamite and brings the dynamite back home and into the Douglas household. And, in the early part of the show, we hear these explosions. They're going, oh, yeah, on the other side of town, they're taking down the old bridge or whatever it was. And so it was like a thriller because Tramp brings a stick of dynamite and he's, he keeps dropping it, but it falls on the carpeting. So it doesn't explode, but it goes down the stairs. It ends up in the laundry chute. People almost step on it. But it was so clever that they, I thought did that and could turn what was supposed to be a light comedy into this very suspenseful thing. I mean, if you thought it out, you had to know nothing's going to happen because you'd be blowing the entire cast, the house up, probably the block if the dynamite ever went off. But I just thought it was a very clever episode, and I love watching that one. Probably my favorite one with me was called Raft on the River. Where Robbie and Mike go on a camping trip, and they're older than me, so they can't take me, and I'm all upset. And then they build me a raft in the backyard so I can pretend I'm on a river. And I think they got that because I was always talking about that Huckleberry fin thing that I didn't get to do. So
Right.
somebody come up with an episode called Raft on the River. And it turns out Steve and I, he comes out and spends the night. And it's like a really scary show because, again, we hear all these, it starts raining, we hear owls hooting, then we hear like, it sounds like a wolf, baying in the background. And then finally, there's lightning, and then we see this object, and it looks like a black, like right out of, what was that movie, Ghost, the thing that came and got the bad guy at the end. Well,
Right.
it turns out it's, Steve's fumbling with the flashlight trying to get it on him. And it turns out it's Bub coming home from playing Pinochle. And he doesn't see us in the house, so he comes in the back. Well, it turned out we locked ourselves out. We couldn't get back in the house. So
Yeah, that's right.
yeah, it was a cute idea, and it was fun to do. And I liked when they had that raft around for a while because I got to play on it and in it when I was 9-10 years old. But that was probably my favorite episode. That and the pilot I thought was a good one, where Fred and I double date, and neither one of us like our dates. We're trying to dump them, and we finally do.
It's amazing. He was such a big actor, in the movies and everything else. And there he is. For them to get him to be part of the series was an extraordinary score for the producers.
It was a score, for Don Feddersen and for ABC at the time. I mean, they were beside themselves that they had a movie star, a genuine movie star, the caliber of Fred MacMurray, working on the show and doing the grind. And he kind of paved the road for other big actors to come along and star in TV series. Later Don Feddersen put together The Family Affair with Brian Keith.
That's right.
To Rome with Love with what's his name? John Forsythe. They did The Smith Family with Henry Fonda. So I guess these other actors who are of that era probably wonder, what the hell is Fred doing? Putting yourself into a TV series? That's the death knell for your career. But it worked out very successfully, and he kind of pioneered that path for other people to follow, where they go, hey, if Fred MacMurray can do it, I guess I can do it. It's a good paycheck, and they shoot around him, so he's off 9 months a year or whatever, 6 months a year.
Yeah. Not a bad schedule.
Not a bad gig if you can get it, but you got to be Fred MacMurray. Like I tell people today, I said, well, it would be like if Brad Pitt suddenly said, I don't want to do movies anymore. I got a TV series called My Three Sons I'm developing for myself.
Right.
It's going to be on TV because I don't want to go anywhere anymore.
You still stay in touch? Like, of course, we had Tina Cole here, and she had these loving
we're getting down to the wire. I'm the only original cast member left,
because you just lost Tim not that long ago, and you were close to Tim Considine.
Very close to Tim, all through till he passed away. We were friends in real life too. We went to the Indy 500 every year together, and I was always at his house on New Year's Day, his birthday, and a New Year's party, and I had parties that he would come to, and then Don, it was the same thing. He was like another older brother that we hung out and would do things together. I'd go to his shows, his musical shows. Yeah, he was a great guy. Demers departed way before, and obviously Bill Frawley departed back in the 60s. And Fred, I think he was 1991, if I'm not mistaken. So it's just me, Barry, Tina, and Don Lynn were the only. Oh, and Ronnie Troop, the one that played Paulie on the show.
And whatever happened to Tramp?
Well, there was an original Tramp. Actually, the first season there were two Tramps. There was Spud and Speed, and by the end of the first season, they narrowed it down that they wanted Spud. So Spud was the one that was always working, and he worked for probably about 7 years, and then they got his grandson to play the dog on the show. So he would have been.
How cool is that? All in the family, huh?
Yeah. Well, he did the same thing I did. They took him to the hairdresser to get him dyed blonde so he could be the same colors as Spud.
You did go from blonde to the very dark hair towards the end of the series, right?
Yeah, the first couple of years my hair was very blonde, and it started to change the third year, and they didn't like that. They sent me to Max Factor on Saturdays. I had to have hydrogen peroxide put on my hair to lighten it. And I only did that once because it burned so bad. I used to almost be in tears. It's like, okay, we're just going to set your hair on fire for your head on fire for 30 minutes. Anyway, they wanted to do it the following year. And I said to my parents, if they want to do that, I quit. I'm not doing that. And There was no way. I go, I'll never show up. I won't do it. I won't learn my line.
No
So
way.
they got the message across, and they finally said, okay, you don't have to do it. And my hair got darker and darker until if you look at it at the very end, my hair is almost black.
You're right. Exactly.
I'm black. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
And now it's gray.
So what goes around comes around, right? It went lighter, right? See?
Yeah, we finally went light. In fact,
Looks great. Yeah.
Before your show,
Looks very
I was
distinguished.
gonna put
Almost
just in on my beard, and I forgot to do it. So
no, it actually looks.
You're getting the real deal here.
I was going to say almost a little like Donald Sutherland or something.
Yeah.
Here.
Yeah. Usually my beard's dark, my mustache, and it shaves probably about 5 years off. It's not
very
like
distinguished. Yeah.
I'm not 30 again if I do it. That's for sure. But every little bit counts, and I sort of like having a darker beard because you can see it. The problem with having a beard that's pale, it's almost like washed out. In real life, you almost don't even see it. Where I want it to be more pronounced, so I kind of go for that look. And I don't mind if people make fun of me. It's not like I hide it and go, oh yeah, I've got a dark beard. I don't care if I tell you. I'm too old to care anymore.
If you pull Stan's hair, he will say, ouch. It is real, folks.
This is the best toupee I have ever had. No, that's actually my real hair. Thank God. Well, thank God. I mean, I could lose it too. I don't know. I don't know why my hair stayed in and just Barry's fell out. But, well, I mean, it used to be a lot thicker. I'll say that. Some pictures of me in the 60s, 70s, 80s, man, I had a head of hair, but I should be grateful if there's anything there if you want hair. Obviously, Barry proved you don't actually need it to work, and maybe it's a better gig not to have the hair if you're going to work as a character actor.
Full head there, yeah, right?
Yeah.
Both of you, yeah. Cool stuff. You're the best, Stan, really. This was a great conversation. It was so awesome
and glad we got to hook up again.
Absolutely, to reconnect and catch up on all the new things that you've been working on, how you got through the last couple of years, some great memories of the extraordinary, hard to believe, like 68 years is amazing. And, talking my three sons, but really then delving into some of the other things that people might have forgotten or didn't even realize you were a part of, which is extraordinary. And the producing,
that's the unfortunate
directing.
Part of being sometimes a producer director that people don't see you anymore. They only see you
on screen.
I've probably been busier since I've been a producer and director.
That's what happens.
Nobody knows about it, unless I show up at a function or something than I was as an actor. But they know your face, so that's.
Did they ever try to get you to cut a record?
If you want to have me come back when I get this actor's journey thing, if I have so many stories from that'll completely blow you away. I don't want to give them away on.
No. Today, tease it a little bit, right?
Some of them are hysterical.
Yeah, and the documentary and the TV pilot, you got so many incredible things to share. Did they ever try to get you to do a record or an album or anything?
I did a record. Yeah,
you did.
Remember
didn't you?
The time period where all actors are doing
everybody was doing one.
Yeah,
right.
What was it? Johnny Crawford. He had 2 or 3 records. Cindy's Birthday and a couple other. Paul Peterson had My Dad.
The Brady Kids had songs. Right. Yeah.
I had a record. It was called Hairspray. And it was cute. It was more of a novelty song. It was about a guy who's got a girlfriend who's always spraying hairspray, and I'm choking from it. And I think it was around 1962, somewhere in there, it came out. And for a couple months, it was on the radio. And it actually, I don't know if I'm besmirching this town by saying that, but in Stockton, California, it was #1. So go figure that one out. But I did a live concert there.
You've had your finger on the pulse of all aspects of this industry, Mr. Livingston.
Right, yeah. I remember when I was a teenager, it was an embarrassment. I never told anybody, but occasionally would pop up and or somebody find out or figure it out. Now, you can listen to it probably on the internet. Not that I would want to. But I did a show in Stockton. They brought me up. They brought Shelley Fabre, who sang Johnny Angel. I did Dwayne Eddy, who was the guitar man. And I went because I wanted to meet him because I was just getting into guitars. And then an actor who was the singer named Eddie Hodges, who actually could sing.
Yeah.
And we were going to, because I said, I don't really sing. So they go, oh, no, you don't sing. We have the record and you lip sync it. So we did a Milli Vanilli job. Shelley Fabre and I, Dwayne Eddy played live, and Eddie Hodges, he's a fantastic singer. You know, he was in that movie A Hole in the Head with Frank Sinatra.
Right.
And he sang that song with him, High Hopes. That's
Right.
Eddie. Yeah.
I hope so. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad I had. I look back and it's kind of a cute thing if you get kids or grandkids go,
Yeah.
here's me, you know.
There he is, right?
Right. I mean, I
That is
didn't get a good song. I got Hairspray. In fact, the guy that produced it was the guy. Remember a song called Alley Oop?
Oh, sure. Yeah.
He was the
Wow.
producer. I think his name was Gary Paxton.
Gary
And
Paxton,
he came in and ended up, producing that song and the flip side.
That is amazing. What great stories, Stan. Truly. We're going to keep that porch light on for you. Definitely come back and see us. Catch us
I'll let
up
you know
on
when
everything.
it's done. And
Yeah.
I'll give you a link so you can go take a look at some stuff because you'll be blown away.
Yeah.
But like I say, in some of the behind the scenes story, the people who are involved in are like almost they're more hysterical than anything that ever happened to me. So
That's
it's funny.
really, thanks for all the great entertainment, all the
Yeah.
years of joy and just so many great things that you've had an opportunity to bless us with through your, entertainment, incredible talent, but also the producing, the directing, and everything that you've touched upon. Really, if you look at it, and I'm a television kid, raised on it, work in television, radio, and all. You look at all these shows and all of these people involved, and you're a part of Americana. I know when you look at it, you're like, wow, but you're part of television history of Americana. So much of our history and so many hours of joy and pleasure that have been delivered. And do you ever? It's probably daunting to step back and think about it in those terms. Right?
You really don't when you're the person that did it. Just
when you're
kind of
doing
in the
it,
rearview mirror. Yeah, when people say it, I mean, it's great to hear it, of course. But I'm a guy that was seemingly always looking forward. As I was saying, I rarely, if ever, watched my three sons. I was busy doing whatever my next thing was. That's why. What is 63 years later? My three sons is still on MeTV every day. And now I just found out, I guess for the last 2-3 months, they now air it on Amazon Prime.
Yes,
and then also Decades has it. So it's on more now than it was back then. I guess at some point I should watch it and catch up and see what everybody liked. I saw a few shows, obviously the one I was telling you about with Tramp and the pilot. And those were always my kind of go-to shows when I had to show something from the show. If I was on a talk show in the morning, they want to run a clip, I'd always say, well, I'll get the pilot clip. But yeah, I mean, just very lucky. And I mean, how lucky can you get? Oh, there you go. That's all the people that made the show. That's everybody.
Incredible,
that was
isn't
our
it?
crew. Yeah, the guy in the lower corner, wearing, he has kind of all white on, the bright white. He was kind of my mentor too. He was a guy named John Stevens. He was billed as the production manager, but he was the producer of the show. I mean, he made it happen, made the set happen. If there was any problems, he was our guy we went to. And, when I met him, he was probably about 28 and I was 10, but, we closed the age gap and we were really close friends later in life. And like I said, he was my mentor.
That's incredible. That is a great shot there. I know, with everybody together.
Yeah, that's Gene Reynolds in that, our director of the third year. Let me see, put my glasses on. That's Gene on the other side of the cake. I'm on one side of it, and Gene is on the other side holding the cake up. And he went on, from our show to do, I think it was The Ghost of Mrs. Muir,
Oh, yeah.
Room 222. He ended up producing Lou Grant. Just a fabulous guy. He was also president of the DGA, and he was my other mentor.
Wow, that's incredible. It takes a village for sure. Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, it's so weird that you knew those guys your whole life. This was like my neighborhood,
right?
Because I didn't see much of my friends. And I literally grew up with adults. These are the adults that I grew up with for, 12, 13 years.
That helps shape.
And, that's probably why I turned out the way I did. I was fortunate in that the show wasn't canceled when I was 14 or 15, but it took me and a good part of my adulthood. And you know, when you're around adults and they're your role models, you learn how to become a little adult at a young age.
It's
So
what
I've
happens,
always
right?
had that,
Exactly.
yeah, in me that,
Like
you
an
know,
old soul.
yeah,
Yeah.
like just a mature person or person that saw other people making decisions and watched how this all happened. And then having the vantage point of not only being the actor there, but watching everybody do their job and learning how to do their jobs so that I could do them later, you know, because I knew I would
That's
probably want to do that.
exactly right. There was one last thing. We might as well slip it in while we're here. This too, you're a part of this also.
Yeah.
That is
Um,
cool.
yeah, that's kind of an odd story. I did an acting role, and I think it was like a year and a half ago, 2 years ago. But the guys that did it shot a documentary about a film I was making in 2012. I actually made a Cinerama movie with a partner of mine, and it was what was it called? I'm trying to remember the name of it now. In the Picture. And so when they found out we were going to make a Cinerama film, nobody had made one in 50 years. And Dave Strohmeyer, who was like I mean, for the whole world, the Cinerama guru. So that was cool that I was, you know, working with him. So I was one of the producers. There was two other producers, including Dave. We just did this Cinerama film. It actually opened the Cinerama Film Festival in 2012 at the ArcLight Cinerama Dome in Hollywood. And they found every Cinerama film, which there's not that many. It was like 12, 13 things. Like most of them were travel logs, the early ones, but then they finally got into filmmaking. And How the West Was Won was the last Cinerama film ever made. They also made The Wonderful World of Brothers Grimm. There was even a Renault car commercial made in France in Cinerama. So it was pretty cool. And anyway, the morning we were first up at bat at about 9 in the morning, and I saw Leonard Maltin going in. I'm going, oh no, he's really gonna
Uh-oh.
hate it. And anyway, he came out, he wrote a rave
You
review,
did.
and I went up to him years later. I mean, he knew who I was from My Three Sons, but I thanked him. You know, I didn't know if he'd like it or not, but he did like what we did, and yeah, it was kind of an interesting little piece. Anyway, the guys that covered that and did the documentary for us, which I thought was a great documentary, and it was called The Last Days of Cinerama. And anyway, just a couple years ago, one of them called me up and said, hey, you know, we were thinking about you for a part in this thing. I'm doing these Star Wars films that are sanctioned, I guess, somehow through George Lucas, and they're a continuation of other characters that are part of that franchise. And so I said, yeah, okay, send me the script. I'll take a look at it. And I thought, you know, hey, they did us a favor. I'll do them a favor. And anyway, so I got it and I looked through it and it looked, you know, looked cute. So I thought, okay, I'll do, called them back. And then about 2 days later, I said to my wife, oh my God, what did I just do? I just agree. I got to learn all these lines. I didn't think about that part. I said, God, I got like pages and pages of like dialogue. I don't know if I can remember that. I don't remember what I did yesterday. So anyway, I had plenty of time. We weren't shooting for a couple months. So little by little, when I would go out for a walk, I would take, you know, the script with me, and yeah, I learned my lines. I learned them so well. I don't think I even flubbed a take when we shot it. So it was really fun. I you know, enjoyed being in front of the camera again, and
Right.
I'm like a bad guy. I tricked this guy into some kind of, it's not cards, it's played with these weird shaped domino kind of thingamajigs. And it turns out he's better than me and cheats me out of all my money. And I get upset and I'm about to attack him. And anyway, he lasers me, and that's the end of me.
Did that, you know, reinvigorate your interest in getting back out there? Like if a series or something was approached to
You
you?
know, the way I approach it this way, I don't go looking for it. Somebody calls me, and every once in a while, somebody will call me with something. And, you know, I just said, well, you know, if there's a script, you better get it to me early. If I have to remember anything, I know I can remember. I'm just sort of freaked a
Are
little
there
bit.
certain genres that you like that would be,
I would do anything. Like I said,
yeah,
if it's comedy or being a professor in some
right.
classroom scene, whatever they want me to do, I'll do it, you know, as long as I'm available and I'm not working on something else that
Something
makes me
else.
not be able to do it. But yeah, I get calls here and there. It's mostly stuff that ends up, it conflicts with something else. But yeah, I've got something that somebody else called me on that I had done I think I was in a documentary they had, but they're doing a film and asked me if I wanted to be in it. I said, sure, but the days of getting an agent and going out and being that was one of the worst things you can find out as an actor, where you go out. I remember when My Three Sons ended, and I took like a month off because I just thought, well, maybe I shouldn't do anything just to decompress. And I hadn't even really thought about, coming off a show or where I was, on a top 10 show for 12 years and really well-known person. So my agent called and said, I'd like to send you out on something. I said, yeah, I should probably go and start getting my feet wet. And, I'm thinking this guy's talking like about a movie or part in a TV show. So he goes, well, there's a McDonald's commercial tomorrow at 3:00. And I'm like, my instincts are going, wait a minute, I just came off starring on a series and you're putting me into and then I realized as an actor, you can't think that way. You just got to go. So I said, sure, no problem. I went. So it was me and about 100 other actors that looked just like me on that commercial.
Right.
I got my turn, went in the room and did my thing and said the lines. In fact, I think the guy that I met, that we're good friends. In fact, he's one of the guys in the actor's journey. But he just, I think, got to town or was just trying his luck. It was Anson Williams.
Williams. He was just with us with his wife Sharon about a week ago.
Yeah.
Wow.
We shot some stuff for him at the Hollywood Museum a couple of weeks ago.
What a great place. When I come out to the West Coast, I've got to get out there. So many, Harlan and others have always said, you got to come see this place, Donegal.
You should. Yes, I haven't been there.
It is really extraordinary, huh?
Yeah,
it's
she's
just
really got a...
You said the old Max Factor building? Yeah. It's incredible. We hear you. You hear us?
Hold on again. See these? They're dead. Where are they?
So it is.
There.
I
didn't know we were...
That is funny. It's a fade to black.
It seems to be...
It's almost so cool. I don't think we should edit it. It's just cool. It's like you're the Outer Limits or the Twilight Zone. He's so talented. He can do a disappearing act. And then,
hello?
Yep.
Oh,
you hear us?
Can you hear me at all?
So we hear you, but we don't see you. It's just a black screen. You see me? It's like you went into an episode of the Outer Limits.
I can't hear you. Let me try something again. Hold on.
Yeah.
There we go.
Take notes, folks. He's teaching you here how to get through things. There we go. Yeah. He's a trooper, I tell you. He's a trooper.
Where did I go before? Settings.
So take notes, folks. This is how professionals stick to their guns and keep doing what they need to do to make it happen. And that's what he's trying to do. He's trying to figure it out. I think maybe his Wi-Fi, there was a little thing with his Wi-Fi earlier, but I think maybe his power source gave out. The screen is still there for him. So this is cool. This is, as far as just seeing it, how we work through these things as they happen. Gang, I've been seeing a ton of comments coming in too, as Stan plugs things in and reboots things. We've been seeing so many comments coming in from people who have been sharing their memories. If you've enjoyed and continuing to enjoy this episode, certainly leave a comment for us, on the YouTube channel underneath, and be sure and, give this episode a like. We'll have him come back in just a second as he reboots everything. And, he probably lost his power supply. So if he loses the power supply, it just takes the person sort of out of the screen. I think his Wi-Fi had a little bit of an audio thing for a little bit of a blip earlier, and he figured that out. But so yeah, definitely leave a comment on the YouTube channel if you enjoyed this episode and enjoy all the episodes that we present to you here on the Jim Masters Show Live series. The feedback that you guys give is really so important. Lets us know what you enjoy, lets us know what it is that you want to see more of here on the series as well. And it also gives us ideas for, things that we want to do going forward, because we've done so many shows in the time that we've been on the air. We're talking about, almost 1,070 at the time of this show, about 1,070 in such a short time, like almost 4 years. That's a lot of shows. That's a lot of episodes. And it continues to be fantastic. So if you've enjoyed those episodes, definitely, whether they're live or you watch them in the archives, because you can binge watch all of the episodes here in our series, just binge watch. Definitely do that. Let us know what you've enjoyed and leave a comment. Subscribe. Hey, if you're watching and you haven't had a chance to subscribe to the YouTube channel, again, we present these shows to you live. So definitely, subscribe to the YouTube channel, which costs nothing. You just hit the subscribe button. That helps us reach more people too. And it also lets us know that you're part of the Jim Masters Show family, that you enjoy these episodes. Just want to show you this quick. Yeah, like, comment, subscribe, and don't forget you can share the episodes too. Really great having Stan here on the show. I think his power source may have, unless there's a power failure or something, maybe, but his power source probably knocked him off there, because he was on the Bluetooth, and the Bluetooth sometimes can knock you, if the earbuds aren't charged up, they can knock you offline, and that could be what happened. But what an epic conversation, right? What an absolutely epic conversation. Take a look at a couple of the comments coming in here as well. Sue says, thank you. This was great. The pleasure was all mine. Kathleen in New York City is saying, this was great. Thank you, Jim. Pleasure is all mine as well. And Stan's already planning for his return trip back on the show, because he has so many projects and so many cool things he's working on. Prayers for your continued success with good health and more memories to be created. Diana, thank you very much. And that is Diana watching and celebrating not only this episode, but Stanley's epic career. Take a look at some of our viewer comments. Maureen says, this has been fabulous. Thanks for being with us this evening here. Keep on keeping on, Stanley. Please come back again. Oh, and thanks for that hug when I was 6. 6? Wait, did that say 6? Wow. Very cool. A lovely hug from Stan, right? Back when you were 6. Thank you, Jane, watching, and some of our viewers. We're an interactive show here, so I'd like to see some. But don't forget, leave some comments on the YouTube channel underneath as well, and we would love that. Thanks for coming back to Lovely Hall, Stanley. This was a great conversation. Loved hearing your stories. Good luck with all you do coming up. And Stanley, he sends his love and he thanks you for watching on the Jim Masters Show. And we thank you as well. Hi, everyone, from Janet to Stevens. Good to see you, Janet, here on the Jim Masters Show Live series. And Diana says, this was a happy evening listening to so many great memories. Thank you, gentlemen. The pleasure is all ours. A real pleasure bringing this to you as well. Love it. Sherry Larson watching says, thank you, Stanley, for being here tonight. Fabulous conversation. Thank you, Jim, for another amazing episode. Very welcome. Very, very welcome. Take a couple more comments coming in here. And we see a lot of the comments coming in, and you guys are some really nice comments that are coming into our little chat room here. Diana Fisher says, I grew up watching all the shows that he's talking about, especially My Three Sons. Love them all. Watched all the reruns, and they're still on television, which is amazing. And all these great shows. Diana also adds, it's very heartwarming to hear the story about an actor who enjoyed and had fun with it and continue to build a career in the industry. I agree. That is so true. Let's see. Wendy is here. Wendy Jones. My Three Sons is on at 6:30 a.m. here in Michigan. I watch it every morning after Dragnet on MeTV, the MeTV network, which has a lot of good shows as well. Taking a look at a few more here. We appreciate all the levity coming in here. Austin Field watching and saying another wonderful show. Please subscribe for excellent content. We thank you for that. And yeah, subscribe, like, comment, share, spread the word. It's important. It lets us know the feedback is fantastic. We love it. And this is all great. Linda Odell watching in Florida. Thank you very much for watching. All the great folks here. This is really cool. Nice stuff. Great comments, everybody. Appreciate this. All the hellos here, too. A lot of hellos here. Lisa Rodrigo, good to see you, Lisa. She's watching as well, I believe from New Jersey. She is in New Jersey. And all the great comments. Leave a comment on the YouTube channel underneath as well. We really appreciate that. 6 years old. Way before you were 6 when he gave you that hug. That's amazing. It really is. Love the show. Thank you, Janet. Check out Anson Williams. He mentioned Anson Williams. Anson Williams was just here with his lovely wife, Sharon. And the Happy Days crew, Marion Ross has been a guest on our show. You can see that episode archived on our YouTube channel, Jim Masters TV. Don Most has been here twice. Anson Williams has been here twice. Kathy Garver, Stanley mentioned Family Affair. Kathy Garver has been here from Family Affair. Johnny Whitaker has been here from Family Affair. Ryan Cassidy, of course, the incredible Ryan Cassidy, who just had a birthday a day or so ago. Brother of David Cassidy, Sean Cassidy, son of Jack and Shirley. He was a guest on our show as well. Really, really cool. We just had Pat Boone, legendary Pat Boone, on our series recently. The incomparable Anne Margaret was here. Linda Gray from Dallas. Sharon Gless from Cagney and Lacey. They've all been on our show. Melissa Manchester, whose review album just came out, celebrating 50 years in music. Melissa Manchester, she's been a guest twice on the Jim Masters Show Live series. Lucy Arnaz has been here a couple of times as well. So many. Legendary Frida Payne has been here, and the Pointer Sisters have stopped by. Anita and Ruth. It was one of the last interviews they've ever done before Anita Pointer passed away, and it's a hilarious episode. You can see it on our YouTube channel as well. And Jerry Mathers, the Bee from Leave It to Beaver, has been a guest on the Jim Masters Show Live series. But an epic conversation with him, and so many incredible people from yesterday and from today. We, our guests come from Hollywood and Broadway and television and film and music and stage and sports and comedy. We don't just focus on one era or one genre. It's an entertainment, lifestyle, celebrity talk show series, so we cover it all. And amazing guests that have come in from everywhere. So I think he probably lost the power, but it was really an epic conversation. And he and I stay in touch, and we're going to have him back on the show. This was his second visit here on JMS, and what an epic one it was. Really, really cool. So hope you enjoyed it. Certainly let us know. Like, comment, subscribe. We're going to wrap here because I think his power probably maybe went out. So he sends his best. I can guarantee that, and we send our best as well. Thanks for being with us. Hope you enjoyed it. Spread the word if this is your first time watching the Jim Masters Show Live series. We got a lot of great shows coming up, amazing guests. Tomorrow, Rosalind Kind is going to be here, the incomparable singer, sister to Barbara Streisand. She's going to be with us tomorrow. And a plethora. Tony Orlando is coming back on our show in a matter of days. Yeah, he was with us. He's coming back. He's on his finale tour. That's going to be epic. Always enjoyed Tony Orlando. So a lot of good stuff. All right, gang. Thanks for watching, wherever you're watching around the world. This is your host, Jim Masters, thanking you for your time this time till next time. We thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, share, click the like button, share this episode, comment on the YouTube channel, and subscribe to the YouTube channel. For all of us here, We appreciate you. Love one another. Take care of one another. Don't forget to take care of yourself and love yourself. And come back and see us again. We'll keep the porch light on for you as well, right here at home on the Jim Masters Show. Love you all. Take care and be well. Thanks to Stanley Livingston for being with us. He was really a great guest. And again, this was his return visit. And boom, there he is. Great guy. Great friend of our show. And it was epic to have this conversation with him. So we appreciate you being with us, and come see us again, as I mentioned. And tomorrow, Rosalind Kind is with us, 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific. Don't forget, we also did that 98th birthday tribute to Dick Van Dyke with celebrity guests. And Margaret has been on our show, and lots of others. Rosalind Kind tomorrow, Barbra Streisand's sister, and incredible singer in her own right. And Stanley Livingston was with us today. All right, gang. We'll see you soon on the show, okay? We'll be here waiting for you. Thanks for being with us. Take care. Be well. And cheers.